Hey, I know. That's my mantra.
It's okay. I'm an asshole. I know it's okay.
That's my whole personality.
I get it. No, that's my personality. Remember, I'm the one everyone hates.
Well, that's the thing is like I am absorbing what you're putting out on the show, and so we're merging.
You know, the irony is like I went out into podcasting and like, well, now I guess streaming now, like with the intent of not being like my older cousin, and I'm slowly turning into him, and I'm like, I have to dial it back because I can't be that asshole, and I'm being that asshole, and I can't be that asshole.
Well, I don't know what to say to you there. Honestly, I was trying to find a comeback, but
it's got to be a growth thing. It's got to change must come from within to reflect on what's outside. I guess
so. I suppose. So. That's what this guy says.
Oh God. Really? Wow. You're channeling like some inner Ryan and Andre right now with that one.
Hey, someone's got to pick up the slack for them not being here right now.
Fair enough. I get you.
Got some good variety in here.
I sure as fuck wasn't.
And you know what? Good on you. Howdy doody, ladies and gentlemen, and gents and gentles, and whatever other intro you want. What's up, guys? On 4Nerds 168, and as you can tell, there's two of us right now. We do have some guests joining in the back. One newcomer who's never been here before on the stream anyway. He's been in the chat many times. A guy we know and love, and then we got another guy who has been on here before, and it's been a while. We're gonna have him on here, but Phil, how's it been going?
It's going, man. Not fast enough. Can't wait to be in Boston next week. So I won't be here next week. Just a heads up.
Yeah,
for everyone out there, I will be at PAX East. That goes from Thursday to Sunday, so expect some 4Nerds updates from me in that regard. Video gaming, Penny Arcade Expo, whole lot of panels, whole lot of fun shit going on. So I'll be out there.
And that's exciting. That's a 3-day convention. That's
a 4-day convention.
Oh, that's right. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh, dang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, man.
Yeah, I'm flying out on Tuesday. Getting in Tuesday night, knock on wood. Hopefully nothing goes wrong with my flights or anything like that. But yeah, I'm flying out Tuesday morning at like 5:45 my time, and I'll be in Boston by 6:45 evening time, Eastern time.
Oh, so they're at 5:45 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're jumping into the future there. That's always the trippy thing of flying coast to coast. It's like when I was flown out to LA for the Rebel Moon visit, I like lost. Oh no, I gained like, was it 4 or 5 hours?
5 hours, yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. It's funny. We were both in LA last year, weren't we?
Yeah, at different times, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was only there for about 2 days. But what's funny is like my older brother is the weirdest.
When were you there again? What?
Oh, gosh.
When was it? April, May, June, somewhere in the summer, I think?
I want to say it was sometime in the summer. And hey, he's joining us just in time.
Hey,
there he is.
What's going on, you guys?
Nice of you to show up.
I know. I had to rush home, throw my kids in the house, and I was like, let's go. I got to get out. It's the 4Nerds.
I got to get on YouTubes.
I got to get on the YouTubes,
guys. Hurry up.
Go eat your dinner. It's the top ramen in the cup.
Get your nuggies.
Get your nuggies.
Get your nuggies now and leave Daddy alone.
What's up, Hunter Iggy? Good to see you, buddy.
Hunter?
Howdy, Hunter.
Man, we're just talking about Phil going out to that expo this next week in Boston.
I know. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And then he also has a what was it? It's a QR code.
So yes. If I'm still collecting some coin from people who have been kind enough to donate, since I was expecting my tax return to hit, it did not hit. It still hasn't hit.
Still hasn't hit.
I've got everything like paid for the most part, but still, it's like for ancillary stuff like Uber rides, eats, all that shit. But yeah, I don't even have that shit pulled up, but it is on my Instagram. It's on my Facebook stories most of the time. Just PayPal, Venmo, whatever works. If anyone's feeling kind enough to donate to that, it is much appreciated. And I thank and am just very grateful to everyone who has so far. But I'm taking off. Like I was telling Dawson, I'm taking off Tuesday morning at 5:45 our time, because me and Andre are in the same state.
Yeah.
And, I got to be at the airport at like 4 o'clock in the fucking morning.
Are you flying out of Sacramento or out of SFO?
Sacramento.
Okay. Sometimes it's a little more expensive, but it's so much more convenient because to go through SFO, it's just like a whole ordeal. You're like, honestly, oh my God.
It wasn't too bad. My round trip from there to back round trip is only like $500. It wasn't that bad.
That's not bad at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, my motel, on the other hand, that's a completely different fucking story.
Yeah, that's
It's
fun.
It's fucking expensive.
Got a New Zealander in the chat. Jason, are you in Auckland or Wellington? Curious to know. My brother.
No, Jason McKenzie is in New Zealand.
Yes, Auckland, New Zealand, or Wellington, New Zealand.
He's also a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. So
fair enough.
He knows a lot of Lord of the Rings knowledge.
He's one of the Vodka Stream's biggest supporters, so thank you again for keeping that ship afloat, Jason. Much appreciated, even though that's not my show, but Dave appreciates it. I know that much.
He's also a member of my channel as well, so he's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. And speaking of awesome people, we're not going to make our guests wait any longer. First and foremost, this is his first time on the streams. He's been in the chat many, many times, but now he's tuning in and chiming in with us from the Batcave. We got Nerd Costa Nostra. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
Not much. Not much.
Good to
Thanks
have
for having me. Appreciate
Good
it.
to have you.
Seriously, that green screen effect is like looking slick, man.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
Yeah, this is my temp. This is my temporary one. I got a new one from Elgato, the extra large one. I delivered like a week ago. I'm doing a bunch of electrical work behind me. That's why you obviously can't see that.
And then you're like doing some maintenance on the Batmobile in front of you, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The electrical work is probably upstairs where the computers are at.
See, he's got to repair when Superman ripped off the top canopy. It's just, you got to fix that. You just got to.
Alfred's hard of working way there at the ceiling behind
Superman.
Love it. And let's bring on our other guest here today. You might know him from Comics League. He's been on here a time or two. And we got Jared. What's up, man?
What's up?
What's up, Jared?
Not that much. Just getting into arguments with people on Twitter who take Zack Snyder out of context. So, same old.
Yeah, what else is new, man? It's been a fun week seeing a lot of that stuff going around. Like every other day, I think I see something on either Facebook or something where it's like, Zack Snyder says this. And in the comments, there's see people saying like, yeah, Zack didn't actually say that. It's like, thank you for actually saying that.
My favorite is I'm waiting for the proper moment that whenever anyone posts that, I just want to put in the comments, move on.
Well, it's Jack Pierre. I want to say a big shout out. Thank you. But no, it's one of those things where it's like, they use it, they use anything that Zack Snyder does as a reason to like shit on or just grab attention from Zack Snyder fans. It's really ridiculous. And a lot of that shit, like Jared was saying, I just ignore it because I'm like, dude, I don't care. I don't care what you have to say. I already have my point of view, and that's fine. So I don't know. It's just pathetic, really.
I see some shit like that all the time. Like I even saw today, someone was like triggered an entire fan base by using this image, and it's like the crocodile fucking Jaws, right? And it's like, oh, Marvel over DC. I was like, oh, okay, that's cute. Let me just go ahead and one up that real quick. Zack Snyder over James Gunn.
I know, and that would just get everyone lit. Like,
I already had someone be like, "Oh, you're just trying to make a fool of yourself." I was like, "No, you're triggered. The whole reason you said that is because you're fucking triggered." So
yeah,
it's funny, Phil. Objectively, in terms of sales, that's actually correct.
I'm well aware. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's been a fun week with that for sure. But we got a big topic here today. We got a couple of small ones to target, but do we want to jump right into the Batman stuff, or do we want to?
We can wait. We can build into that.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay.
I think we can build to that.
Okay.
Me think.
Well, okay. All right.
Andre, you're going to say something?
No, I was going to say, well, if we're not going to talk about that, I mean, there is the news that James Gunn revealed that Mike DeLuca is the one who hired him to write a separate Superman script, just like Matt Reeves, the Batman. And so that in itself is a big revelation, especially within this fandom as well, because, I mean, for the longest time, we all believed that Walter Hamada was the one who hired him. And it turns out it was Mike DeLuca. And so when you break that down, which I just made a video once, you might want to check that out. But
I watched that on the way home, by the way.
I thought it turned out pretty well. And I lived that one. I just like freeballed it. Anyway,
Never freeball
that's the right term, but no, it's crazy to think about when, Mike DeLuca's plan was essentially, hey, we're going to give you your own Batman, we're going to give you your own Superman, and then you're going to have the main Justice League DCEU universe happening at the same time. And what's funny about that idea or that concept is that like that's something that they tried to that they were originally going to do when it came to Brandon Routh's Superman, Christian Bale's Batman, and Justice League Mortal. It was going to be 3 separate universes all running at the same time. So maybe he took inspiration from that. Maybe he was thinking ahead and thinking, hey, not everyone's a huge fan of the current Justice League, so I'm going to give you your own Superman and your own Batman until we get and move forward with this DCEU universe that we already have somewhat established, and try and kind of repair that.
So in other words, actually use the multiverse properly.
There you go. But that's the whole thing too, is that hinges on the fact that the fans wouldn't get confused. They wouldn't. I don't think they would even care, to be honest with you. We wouldn't care. I know that.
Here's how I know that, because remember, there was a period where we had like briefly Henry Cavill. Then we also had the Superman from Superman and Lois. No one got confused. If it's a different actor, I get the feeling people are going to detect, oh, this is a different continuity because Ben Affleck ain't playing Batman, the Corn Sweat universe.
Yeah. I mean, that, to some extent, like there's some audience members who, like with a cinematic universe specifically, would be like, at first, like, oh, what's going on? What's this? But then after a while, they'd catch on pretty quick. And so, again, because there's the whole idea of they had the Joker movies, then they had the Batman stuff, then they'd have, Superman, and now David Cornswet Superman. And so the fact they're actually going to play into that actually sounds interesting to me, because it kind of goes back to something we talked about a lot back like a year or two ago, is that in that sort of situation, everybody wins. Everybody has their own thing they can go to.
Exactly.
Universe that they can support if they want to, or not support if they don't want to. But I think here's the reason why, like, a lot of fans are kind of upset with it, because they're like, oh, well, they could have done all these different things. But here's why I think it makes sense, is because you look at the box office return of superhero films in the past like 3 years, it hasn't been great. It has not been the instant money maker that it used to be, and has not been the guarantee that it used to be. And so now it's like, well, do you want to put your eggs in a lot of different baskets, or all in one basket and try to see if you can get the most bang for your buck and spend the least amount of money with production costs and hiring actors and such? And so to me, financially, it makes sense. Of course, storytelling wise, definitely frustrating for sure, and I can understand that.
But the Joker movie proved you don't need a big budget film to make $1 billion.
No,
that's true.
Exactly.
So as long as you have a good story, you have some good actors, and you do it just right, you can have a small budget and still come out on top.
Well, even
and having variety. People want variety. And even now they've taken that away. Now we're waiting, another year and a half before we even see the next live Superman film.
Right.
And I mean, you could have kept Superman and Lois going for at least another season, maybe season and a half, like condensed the whole final season to like 6 episodes, 90 minutes each, close it out. Definitely. And that gets you to the film.
Well, another great example of like not having a super high budget but turning out a massive profit. Deadpool. The very first Deadpool movie had a budget of less than $60 million. Fox was like, okay, Ryan Reynolds, go make your goofy ass little Deadpool movie. We'll give you, chump change to make it. He winked at them and went, okay. And then what happened? It became one of the highest grossing R-rated comic book films of all time.
Yeah.
And Fox was like, oh, you mean we can actually do this? Okay. And it fucking worked. And then Joker rolls around and Warner Brothers is like, yeah, I guess you can make this movie for like less than $60 million, but we're going to like split the profits with Broad Entertainment. And that's what boned them on the back end. Yeah. But even still, it's like,
thanks, Hamada.
But I think Deadpool and Joker were like lightning in a bottle. The first Deadpool, it was like something we hadn't seen before from a comic book movie, especially Joker. Completely different than any Joker we've ever seen. Completely different Gotham than we've ever seen before. And I think that's what resonated, is it's different. It's something new and fresh.
Let me ask you guys this. So let's say they were going in this direction. In other words, having all the different universes, and they made this clear. Do you think the DC movies that came out in 2023 would have performed better, because it wouldn't be like, oh, they're just rebooting, so these mean nothing anymore?
I guess that kind of depends on, whether or not James Gunn would still be in charge. I mean, if you take that into account, coupled with the success of Black Adam, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like they can try and say 10 Ways to Sunday, oh yeah, we're doing like a multiverse thing. Marvel kind of did the same thing, and neither one of them were necessarily profitable all last year. It really just kind of boils down to how you make your movie, how you market your movie, and on top of that, like what kind of story you're telling. I mean, case in point, the Marvels bomb, Ant-Man bomb, the Flash bomb. Like the only movies that made money last year that were superhero films were Guardians of the Galaxy, Across the Spider-Verse, and Aquaman, and that's even on the lesser extent of a side. It again boils down to how you make your movie, how you market it, and what kind of story you're trying to tell.
Even like Shazam. I mean, the second one bombed too.
Yeah, that one did too. You're right.
That was, and then you got the lead actor on Twitter begging people, please come see my movie. Don't go see John Wick. Was it 3 or 4 at the time?
John Wick 4. Yeah.
Don't go see that. You want to come see this, and everyone just saw that, and it really turned them off even more.
Yeah, because it was desperate,
begging for it.
Yeah.
And then he made comments toward the people that wanted to see the Ayer cut, saying, "Oh, the Ayer cut isn't even that good." And I'm like, "How do you know?"
What's up, Antonio?
Got saying what's up to Sci-Fi HQ.
What's up?
But I think the problem that we're seeing is that when it came to like a movie like the Marvels, right? In order for the general audience to want to go see the Marvels, they would have had to have watched Miss Marvel, WandaVision, a whole bunch of different Disney Plus shows, not to mention
Captain Marvel too. Yeah.
Captain Marvel, yeah. And then when you look at the DC side of things, they put a lot of marketing into the Flash because they thought, okay, this maybe has a chance or whatnot. But all those films, other than Black Adam, when it came to Aquaman, the Flash, Shazam, it's like there wasn't enough of a buildup to those characters.
Can I get a big screen real quick? Put me on the main screen. I got something to remind everyone of. The Flash is one of the greatest comic book films ever made. My name is James Gunn.
Well, what? Okay, so what do you want him to say? Be like, hey guys, I just want to remind you, this movie fucking sucks. Don't. No,
I wanted him to either not say a damn thing or
he shouldn't have said anything.
He shouldn't have said shit. He shouldn't have said shit.
He shouldn't have. But what if someone like David Zaslav was like, hey, hey James, I really need you to promote this movie, and he was like, all right, fuck it, and he just text that shit out. Who knows?
Sure.
But
there's a way to promote it without trying to blow smoke up people's ass.
Right. You can say that it's a fun movie and not say that it's the best comic.
You could have said it was a fun movie. It has a lot of heart.
He said that after he gave notes on the fucking movie. Those notes being let's put in George Clooney. It's like,
and it was Tom Cruise approved. It was Tom Cruise approved.
Tom Cruise, Stephen King.
That was just so weird.
Yeah, that was weird. The way I would have promoted it is I would have said, hey, if you like a lot of like DC Easter eggs, a lot of obscure DC Easter eggs, you'll love The Flash. That's the way you do it. You don't say it's the greatest DC movie since The Dark Knight, since they've been telling us this since Aquaman.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But even so, those characters were so far removed from Justice League, even far removed from Justice League 2017. And so because of that, the fans had no connection to Ezra Miller's Flash. They had no connection to Zachary Levi's Shazam. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't like, oh, the new one coming out. Oh, I want to go see it. I love the first one. And Shazam 1 was a good movie. I mean, I liked that movie a lot. But the problem is that they had no emotional connection to those characters. And so when those films came out, nobody gave a shit except for maybe us because we want to see how it is. And we want to, obviously, I think all of us were all like, hey, maybe there's some Snyderverse connections. And there may have been a couple crumbs here and there, but there was nothing to build off of. And then not to mention James Gunn coming out and saying, chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. So then it was like, okay, so everything coming out now is basically a waste. It doesn't matter.
And everyone knew right when that happened that was bad marketing. Yeah, sorry.
What they should have done, what would have helped to your point, Andre, and this is something I said on my show, is what they should have done is had Wonder Woman, make Shazam 2 a Wonder Woman Shazam team up movie, because then people will show up to at least see Wonder Woman. Make a lot of these team up movies with the other Justice Leaguers, because yes, I get that this is far away from ZSJL or Craptus League, but you want to you still want to have your major characters, because the Flash, despite the fact that he had a show, is not that big of a draw. Then you add on Michael Keaton's Batman, which he is a draw, but the problem is you have a generation gap between the majority of the audience. If they had Christian Bale Batman come back instead of Michael Keaton, I think more people would have shown up.
That wouldn't have made sense.
It wouldn't have, but you would have had people show up regardless, because
you would have had more
his Batman in there.
Well, and if you look at the advertisement all around the Flash, they were banking on Keaton And
They were making
the
it
Batman
hard.
and
Yeah.
Supergirl, they were pushing those two characters hard. And
But I mean,
how
like
much did you
Keaton-
really see Supergirl in the movie? Not
No.
very much.
Well,
Not
the
much.
problem with that was that once Sasha Kaye got in the movie, it felt like two different movies. It was like, okay, now Keaton takes a back seat,
Yeah.
and now we're going to focus on Supergirl. It was kind of like, wait a minute, no, this should have been a little bit different. And to me, it would have been more intriguing and more interesting to see a super weak, skinny Henry Cavill, in that role, not Sasha Kaye Supergirl. But I get what they were doing, but it just, to me, I would have rather seen Henry Cavill in that role.
And there's no excuse for them. The amount of time they had to do the Flash movie, up to the release, there was no reason why that movie should have bombed. They had so much time to make that movie as perfect as they could, and they didn't.
Honestly, they should have
actually adapt Flashpoint.
No, let's not do that. Let's just not do that. Also, they should have flipped the release dates for Aquaman and the Flash.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
They should.
I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with special effects that they weren't ready yet. But the Aquaman should have come out before the Flash, and that would have been so much better to see. Another cameo of Ben Affleck as Batman. Just anything can get a Ben Affleck as Batman, I'll watch it, right? But it just didn't make any sense.
It makes more sense story-wise, because when I saw Aquaman in theaters, I'm like, are they going to do anything? Are you going to see like a flash across the screen because the reboot's happening? Oh, no, nothing? Wow.
He's like, because I'm Aquaman. Woo! At that point, I was like, okay. There we go. All right.
I'm drunk in a bar and then fall in a puddle.
No, but I mean, Aquaman 2, like, realistically, like, I didn't hate the movie. I actually thought it was pretty good, aside from a couple of campy spots. But
it's the best sequel of the DC sequels, but that bar is not high.
Yes.
No, exactly. But like the main plot on how they're trying to stop Black Manta and all that. That wasn't bad. I was like, hey, this is entertaining. It looks cool. I'm following the story. It was very easy to follow. There wasn't a whole lot of plot twists, but right at the end when he was like, I'm Aquaman. What? I was like, okay, that basically means anyway.
That was a reshoot.
See you later. Fuck off.
You could tell that was a fucking reshoot too.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that was a reshoot, but all right, whatever.
Yeah.
He was just like,
I saw that clip, and like the background behind him was clearly a green screen.
That was so good.
They just brought him into the studio, like dressed up the top half of him in the costume.
Yeah,
like,
put the shirt on.
Yeah, put the shirt on. Basically, that's all it was, and it's like, and the fact that we as an audience can see that just shows how little care is put into these last few movies of DC. Is like you can clearly see through all the BS. Like for instance, when they came out and said that the chronodome effects were intentionally made that way because that's how Barry sees everything. It's just like, no, I don't believe you. You didn't give your VFX artists enough time, and you decided not to use stock footage from your previous films for some ungodly known reason.
That's what they could have done, open a portal, because they did that in Titans. But if they wanted us to think that the VFX were that way in the Chrono Ball intentionally, they should have had Barry say, when I went into that Chrono Ball thing, everything looked very weird.
Yeah,
well,
like,
they couldn't do that because they were like, once they got to a certain point, they were like, shit, this is gonna look like crap. Oh well, and to be honest, I just can't believe how bad the special effects in those corner bowls turned out. And you're talking about, these are the same guys that did Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is DJ and Brian Carota who oversaw the special effects of this movie. Now, I don't know if they were directly involved with that scene in particular, but that was the one thing I thought was safe, was that, hey, we're probably going to get good special effects that stays true to the canon of the Flash within this universe, right? And you kind of saw those things. Like like there were aspects of the Flash that I really enjoyed. Like I love the fact that when the new Barry got the powers, he had the blue lightning, but then the original Barry in the suit had the red lightning because that's what the suit does. So I like how they kept that in there instead of just changing the color and saying, oh yeah, it's just red now. You know what I mean? Like they made sense of a lot of things. And you can really see how Andy Muschietti like tried really hard to keep a narrative and to keep a story
he even
in that movie.
The Snyder cut.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And they let him. You know what I mean? They could have been like, no,
they knew what he was doing. Let's be honest. It's Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they were like, huh? That was in Justice League, right? I don't know.
Yeah, totally. It was in Justice League. Totally.
I would have much preferred to see the movies that Andy Muschietti and James Wan actually wanted to make, as opposed to the movies that Warner Brothers fucking fucked with. Just, man. Because apparently there's a cut of Aquaman where the baby does in fact die. And I'm like, Well, fuck.
See,
that would
I knew that because didn't the like test audiences come out saying, I can't believe they did something with the baby at some point?
Sure, something like that. I heard different from someone who actually knows someone who saw a test screening. But yeah, they from what I understand, there is a cut of the movie where Aquababy does in fact meet its end by the hand of Black Manta. And it's like, yeah, that's from the comics, and that would kind of fall in line with like, you know, the themes of this fucking universe. Because what happens in Aquaman 1? Well, Aquaman kind of lets his dad die. So what's the best kind of revenge Black Manta could get on him? Oh, gee, I don't know, maybe killing his dad and probably his kid too. But
I thought for sure in this film, I was like, okay, Tamar Morrison is definitely going to die.
Right?
I was like, that's a no-brainer. Like, I mean, there's no way you can get around that. I mean, they had it set up to where it's like, he probably should have died. You know, they should have found him dead or dying
and then they just played it so safe. It's like, why? I just don't fucking understand the thought process behind some of these dipshit decisions. Oh, and my God.
When is Warner Brothers gonna get that really crappy level of humor is not working for these movies and characters?
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing though, is that how much of that was James Gunn's notes, and how much of that was literally Hamada and DeLuca and all those guys getting their hands in there and trying to fuck with the movie. Obviously the ending, the way it ended was James Gunn, but I think that, I'm not trying to defend what he did because the ending was horrible, but I think what he was trying to do was he was trying to say, okay, look, let's just give kind of a goofy ending, and then let's just wrap this shit up. When they really could have used that movie to launch the DCU, as opposed to just giving you a shitty ending and then giving you Aquaman, which was like,
and that's what they kept hinting that it was doing. They're like, oh, it's going to hinge all on this and what happens here, and then nothing.
It felt like once Aquaman could not come out before the Flash, they were just like, fuck it.
But that was never the intent of these characters
or
the iteration of these characters. The intent was not for these characters to be goofy. I don't think that was Zach's ever intention. It was to have that more grounded, serious, almost real world feel. Yeah. And then you get all the way up until what they're going to close out the DCEU, and that, let's make them Peacemaker like goofy. And jokingly, and that's not what we all loved about them. We didn't love the fact that they were goofy. We liked the fact that they were grounded. Wasn't a version we had seen before.
Here's the thing that plays into how they operate in the comics, because they're half of them, at least Barry, Batman, John Stewart and Green Lantern, and Hal Jordan to some extent, even Aquaman to like 50% of that. Like, these are people grappling with the idea that they are in a sense perceived as gods, especially Superman and Wonder Woman. Yeah. It's like we're still fucking people at the end of the day. Like, Clark Kent makes it a point, like, I was raised on a farm in Kansas. This is quoting Man of Steel, and yet people are like, fucking Superman shouldn't be brooding. He shouldn't be. He should be smiling when he's punching.
I'm like, have you read modern Superman comics?
No, they haven't. They're basing it on Superman 78. That's it. It's Superman 78. That's all they're basing it off of, because that's all they know. That's all the mainstream audience knows is Superman 78.
But many of them, the Superman fan base will tell you that Superman 78 is the blueprint, and you should never deviate from that. You should never use a different suit. You shouldn't even make a new version of the suit. Just use the old one over and over and over again, and then continue to.
Didn't they say they wanted WB to deep fake Reeve on?
So many Superman fans and like fan groups and stuff keep saying like, we don't want any other actor to portray Superman unless they can have Christopher Reeve's face on there. Like, that's how a lot of Superman fans feel. Not, of course, not a majority. Like, that's not to say that that's a general statement of the Superman fandom, but there's pockets of the fandom that are like that, and so they're just like, they're holding back the character, and they're so stuck in that time frame and don't want the character to move forward.
I mean if that's the case, then you can make this. Anyone can make the argument. Then what about Kirk Allen or George Reeves? Right. I mean, the two actors at the point in time were peak for the character until 78 came around, when then you had the color TV, color movie. You actually got to see the all the other aspects of Superman. Right. But we never hear about those two actors. We never say, as you put, like, the blueprint, right? A lot's changed since the 50s and 60s when you think about today. But people need to get over the fact, hey, 78 was great. Time to move on. I mean, like the comics, how many different versions of Superman have we seen? And nobody complains about that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like,
you'll find some people that complain about like for instance, the New 52 suit, even though I love it, but like it's
Yes.
Superman was so stuck for the longest time in the comics. Like the most recent thing that helped bring him back to like a more relatable light was they gave him a kid. They gave him John Kent, and it's like, yes, this is shut up. This is this is how you move the character forward. You make him relatable. You make him a fucking dad, right? Like we've been doing this with Batman for years. Let's get this on the road with Superman. Give him a child. Oh, let's have him be married to Lois Lane. Yes, let's do things that fans have wanted for fucking years. And they finally did it, and it's done wonders for the character from a general perspective.
I mean, they gave him a kid in Zach's universe. I mean, granted, at first it wasn't his kid, but even that, like, you know, I know everyone was, you know, really against the idea of the baby being Bruce's baby, and I get that. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, he still embraced Lois and the child because that's what Superman does. He you know, he sacrifices, you know, what no one else, where nobody else would have. He's doing the right thing. And I think that's what they're trying to hone in on.
Yeah, real quick, we got a $5 Australian super chat from our good friend here, Axel. Here's an explosion for you. Axel says, putting George Reeves in the Flash is as disrespectful as the Peter Pan joke in Chippendale. That was disrespectful. That was, I remember watching that being like, you've got to be kidding me. They actually went there.
I laughed.
I mean, it was clever.
It was great.
But like,
I thought it was funny. I thought he was the villain of the movie. I was like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, but like when you consider the story of the actor who portrayed Peter Pan or voice acted Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Like the villain basically lived the same life that the actor did, except for the actor.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Yeah.
Like had a terrible
I will agree though, like putting George Reeve in the Flash was just fucking more ghoulish than anything else in that movie. Even putting Christopher Reeve in was just like, all right, I see why you did it. You probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But this right here, putting George Reeve in that along with like a 1950s-ish fucking Jay Garrick, I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
And then also Adam West Batman without ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Just man. But what they should have done is just had like the portal opens, and all of a sudden you see like clips from like the various universes.
Yeah.
You could have just done that instead of turn them into really bad wax dummies.
I mean, it's like they have access. They own all the stock footage for all these versions of the characters. Like you have a way to use that. It's not that complicated, but they're just like, you know, we're going to overwork our VFX artists and really try to do something, reinvent the wheel here. It's like, you don't have to work smarter, not harder. Go back in the archives.
Like it better.
There's a whole there's completed footage of Nicolas Cage being genuine as Superman. We're just gonna fucking gloss over it with a bunch of shitty CGI.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was a huge disappointment on that.
And on top of that, like even including that was just such a like, who is this even for? Like the hardcore fans who know that there was supposed to be a Superman movie. Okay, general audiences are gonna look at that and be like, why the fuck is Nicolas Cage in a Superman outfit? Why is he keeping a giant spider?
Especially when the mass audience isn't even going to know that story about that film that was supposed to happen.
They're like, why is he fighting a giant spider? It's like, oh, well, actually, if you know the movie Wild Wild West, you'd see
Two words. John Peters.
But even that, it was like it was a cameo that at the end was useless and did little fan service because it was like that was nothing more than, you know, obviously, yes, it was in pre-production and it never actually went into production, but still, it's like, why are we even doing that for? And yet, the only Henry Cavill we got was, you know, him with the shirt off, like, oh, and, you know, looking.
Well, you know, there was that news bit of him stopping a volcano, but
it was like a small little version of that flew in laser.
We didn't even see his face.
And
that's probably James Gunn.
And shot his heat vision at a volcano. Which
he's like, I'm gonna burn.
No, what he was actually doing, that does make sense. He was digging a trench to like divert the lava. He did that in the cartoon.
I guess so, but like still at the same time, like
I mean, he could be using his frost breath to cool it off.
Done that, but still,
yeah.
I mean, that's what we get because they didn't have a contract with him. They didn't know.
Marlon Wayne should have shown up as Robin.
I might as well at this point.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Grant Gustin didn't even show up. How did you not use Grant Gustin in the Chrono Ball? It was like,
instead of two berries, have Grant Gustin and Ezra, because they set that up in the Crisis crossover too. So that would have been a nice payoff.
Yeah, they should have. They should have done that. But again, studios often make the wrong decisions when
they should
the
have just
correct
done a
answer is staring them
completely
straight in the
different
face.
Flash movie.
Well,
they should have just made a completely different Flash movie as opposed to what we got.
Like the one we were originally supposed to get with him and Cyborg.
Yeah,
the buddy comedy or like the buddy cop type of thing. That'd been great. I love that, but
would have been fantastic.
Again, in another timeline, I suppose. But I guess
yeah.
The
How
other
did we even
version
get on
of
the
me
Flash?
in the multiverse is watching those movies right now.
Yeah,
Hey.
exactly. Exactly. Well, okay, so we got on this topic because we're talking about James Gunn being hired by Mike DeLuca, and somehow we
Right.
got on the Flash and started ripping it to shreds. But I mean, look, I think that when you look at what DeLuca was trying to do, by having three separate universes, because at that point he was like, look, it's a multiverse, so we can do 3 different things and appeal to a wider audience in DC, something that Marvel can't do because they're kind of locked into their own universe, even though now they're doing the multiverse saga. But it just felt like once Black Adam bombed and didn't do the big dollars that they were hoping for, there was never a way that they were going to continue on with that version of the DCEU. And because at that point it was like, what was the point? And not to mention James Gunn was hired to write a separate Superman script. So the moment he started working on Superman on that script, he was already developing his own universe. And so at that point, what do you do? And look, all of us want to see more of the Snyderverse. Yeah, of course, obviously. But my point is this, is that if you're an outsider looking at, like, if you're James Gunn, right, and you're already started working on the script and what you're developing your own Superman universe, and now you're in a position where you're like, oh, I'm going to be the co-head of DC Studios. Do you want to rehabilitate the existing universe with these movies that are coming out this year or the last year of the Aquamans and the Flash and all that shit? Or are you going to be like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this shit. I'm just going to reboot it and do my own thing. And I've already started that with the script of Superman Legacy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at that point you want to reboot as a company. That makes perfect logical sense. I think the main thing that I had is my main concern for him, not necessarily with him, is that we go back to the statement he had about the Flash movie and the other DC movies that were coming out. He, said, oh, they're the best things ever, especially with the Flash. It's like, look, promote the movie from the company you're, a co-CEO of. That's fine and dandy. But don't claim it's the best thing that has ever come out for superhero films, because now, as like you said, Andre, he's developing his own superhero universe. Now when he promotes his films, that's going to come back to haunt him for a lot of fans, because now when he promotes his films, it's like, oh, I'm really excited about the sequence. This is Superman in a whole new way, or whatever phrase he's going to use. And people will be like, remember this, and they'll show the headline. James Gunn says Flash's best superhero film of all time.
Absolutely.
Remember, Blue Beetle's also a part of this universe, and that didn't turn out that well.
Well, but Blue Beetle never had a chance. I mean, that was a film that, like, once it came out, other than the hardcore fans, the general audience was like, who the fuck is that? Yeah, they probably thought he was related to Transformers.
They locked that movie into the date, number one. Number two, the strikes did not help the promotional side of things at all. And then on top of that, it was also meant to be an HBO Max flick, and then it got bumped up to a theatrical release. So the fact it made a little over $100 million at the box office, then you put it back on HBO Max, it probably made more than enough to justify him being in the universe going forward.
Well, I thought it was a good movie, though. I actually liked Blue Beetle.
It was like the best made DC film of last year, IMO. Yeah. But, that bar is, again, not high. Like, we're looking at a quality perspective, it's really not a hard distinction to make when you look at the other 3 films. I mean, Shazam! Fury of the Gods was a sequel that just should have been different. The Flash is another movie that should have been probably different. And then Aquaman, that movie made more money than all 3 of those movies because, number one, it had like pre-established audience from the first film. You also kind of factor in a lot of, James Wan-isms coming in for that too. And, and then you factor also in the fact the strikes were over. They could fucking have the cast out, promote it, whatever. And then you've also got the fact, oh, well, it's the last one anyway, so we're rebooting after it. BFD. It was just a total shit show after shit show after shitstorm after shitstorm, repetitively back and forth all last year for DC. And James Gunn did not help at all when he was like, I'm gonna completely reboot everything once these 4 movies are out, but still go see these 4 movies. It's like, dude, you should have waited. You should have just waited at least until half those movies were out before you said anything.
Right.
I digress.
It was just weird. The timing was so weird. And you would think someone like David Zaslav, who only focuses on, green and money, and you'd think he'd have been like, well, wait, if you come out and say that, then you're shitting on the movies that we already have in production and that are already done.
Is you could still announce, like, here are some of the movie projects I'm thinking of doing. Don't mention reboot. Don't mention other actors. Yeah, we'll read the writing on the wall that he's really rebooting. but the general audience will see it like, okay, so Superman Legacy, oh, Cavill could come back for that. Wait until all these movies are out and then say, hey, listen, we're doing a complete reboot and none of these people are coming back.
I mean, it wouldn't be an honest way to go about it, but business sense, it would make perfect sense. Like, and make it to where they wouldn't lose money on it, you know, theoretically, of course, because we don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's
I don't know.
weird.
You have
The whole thing is
Cavill
weird.
showing up
It
in
makes
Black
no
Adam
sense.
that came
All
out in
sorts of-
2022. I don't think James Gunn could have kept his mouth shut that long.
Probably
Yeah.
not, but I mean, it's just
If you'd have dragged people along that whole time thinking Henry's going to come back,
That's true. Yeah.
and Henry makes that post saying I'm back, and he shows up and everyone's going to be hyped, and then you're going to just drop a bomb saying, "Oh, by the way, reboot." I think the fire would have been much bigger than it already is.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, it was like, I get the turn of events that took place now and how it became, you know, what it is now, but it just sucks that like Henry Cavill had to get shit on because that's not what they ended up wanting to do.
It's super not cool that like
It's not cool.
immediately after Black Adam comes out, James Gunn gets hired as head of DC Studios. Then Henry Cavill goes on the Josh Horowitz Happy Sad Confused podcast and says, "Oh yeah, I'm meeting with James Gunn like next week.
Brutal.
We're gonna talk about this." And then he gets the bomb of like, "Yeah, sorry, you're not gonna be Superman in my
And those
movie."
conversations and negotiations happen well in advance. You can't tell me James Gunn didn't know Henry was going to show up in Black Adam for a brief cameo.
Oh yeah.
That there were already conversations about bringing him. He knew well in advance that was on the table. That was a very strong possibility, and he made the decision. Oh, I'm CEO, co-CEO, whatever. Well, this is my world now, and I don't want you. I want to do my own thing.
Not only
it's crazy.
Like, you know, it's kind of deliberate to be like, yeah, I had nothing to do with Black Adam. It's like, dude, your wife's in the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but yeah,
His excuse was, "Oh, well, Peter Safran is the one who put her in the movie." And I was like, "What?
What's this check for Black Adam? What
my
is this?
response is, my response is, James, I'm pretty sure you told him, hey, Peter, put her in the movie.
Well, not only that, but she was in at the end of Shazam, which was like, why are we doing this? Why is there a post-credit scene? Nothing's gonna come of this. Like, I don't understand.
Oh, we watched Shazam in the JSA. Why? Because the JSA is not even going to move forward with it anyway.
It was weird. It was like, why? Just delete the scene.
And real quick, we got a $10 super chat from the Movie Raider. Here's a Doomsday Explosion for you.
Yeah, hell yeah.
James Gunn truly has a 10-year plan for the DC.
Nope.
You believe, or is he just making it up as he goes based on social media reception to his ideas and announcements?
Honestly, Dawson, and this may be me pulling my ass, but I don't see the universe lasting past Superman. I really don't.
Well, here's for me real quick with this is that I think he has an idea of a 10-year plan. Like, of course, you have the first projects that have been announced. They're working on Creature Commandos, Superman Legacy, Batman, Brave and the Bold, and everything.
Peacemaker, Waller,
Paradise Island or Paradise Lost, whatever
Lanterns,
it is.
Right.
Lanterns. Like, they have things in place to where, you know, over the next 10 years they can make projects. But again, like, so I think he has a plan. It could be a little bit of both. Like, he says he has a 10-year plan because he does have the beginnings of a plan with a bunch of things in the works, or at least in pre-production. And then also, like, saying you have a 10-year plan sends out confidence via social media that you have something in store for people, so there's reason to get invested in said projects. So it can be a little bit of both. But as far as, like, how long it's going to last, like, it really just depends. In my opinion, it solely depends on the reception of Superman Legacy. Now, they're not just going to cancel everything right away. Like, they'll try to put out one more thing after that if Superman Legacy is disappointing box office wise, maybe one or two more things. But if those keep bringing back negative returns, which we don't know, maybe they will, maybe they don't, then it'd be really hard for them to justify continuing that, especially with the trend of superhero films not necessarily being well received over the past 5 years. But then again, for all we know, James Gunn's Superman Legacy and Muschietti's Batman Brave and the Bold, if he's still going to be doing that, could end up rejuvenating things. We don't know. But I don't know. I do think it's a little bit of both, though, in this case.
I think James Gunn thinks his plan is a 10-year plan that is going to pan out. I also think that the universe is highly dependent on whether or not Superman Legacy Superman performs to the way that Warner Brothers and DC Studios wants it to perform. Now, that's the thing, though. Will the performance of this movie, will Warner Brothers do what they notoriously have done in the past, or will they just let DC Studios continue and chug along and do its own thing like Disney let Marvel after the Avengers? That will be the real question.
What's the thing we've said about
point.
studios in the past, Phil, is that they never learn the right lessons from the
No, they don't. They never do.
They never do.
Here's the thing, though. If the sale to Universal does not happen, and like Zaslav is still in charge, and this movie underperforms that he's putting all this money into, again, there is that, and Zaslav cranks up before it even comes out. Then if the Universal sale happens, and let's say that like Zaslav's been talking to them saying, hey, we have this great Superman movie, guaranteed it's going to make a lot of money. It comes out and it bombs. Is the new like management Universal going to be very confident in James Gunn's plan?
It depends on who's in charge. I don't really know the people there, but
that's all hinging on the hypothetical that Universal's even going to get WB, and even then, it wouldn't even be Universal; it'd be NBC Comcast.
True.
So,
but even then, like, let's say Universal acquires them, right? In a hypothetical situation,
or at the very least, DC.
Right.
Right.
So let's just say that happens, right? I don't think that they're going to be like, okay, so, well, they're either going to leave James Gunn where he's at and just let him do his thing. If they get rid of him, then again, we're having to reboot everything. And I highly doubt, I mean, it's possible, but I highly doubt somebody new who's coming in to take over DC is going to say, you know what? I want to get Zack Snyder back in here and finish his I just don't.
We've heard that
I would love
how many
them
times
to.
now, right?
Yeah, I would love for them to do it. Fuck, I'd be screaming outside. But I just, and not only that, but like the actors that are involved in Zack's story, they're all getting older. They're all getting more expensive. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so many other logistics involved with that. But I just think that if Universal were to do that and they were to move past or move away from James Gunn, they're just going to bring somebody else in there who's going to want to do their own thing. I mean, look at Dan Lin. Dan Lin wanted to do his own thing. And he was outside the studio like freaking petitioning to get the job. And I don't even think he was even in the running, to be honest with you.
And here's the thing, too, with that is that, let's say, for argument's sake, let's say Superman doesn't perform well. And let's say, hypothetically, again, this is a hypothetical upon a hypothetical. Phil has to step out here for a second. But hypothetical upon a hypothetical, where, let's say, Superman underperforms, and then maybe the sale to Universal happens, and then James Gunn eventually departs because of the lack of success of stuff or whatever, again, hypothetically, then you'd have a situation where James Gunn, a guy who brought the Guardians of the Galaxy into the limelight in the MCU, not able to get things going with DC, who's going to want to fill that role after he's done there?
Yeah.
Many people. That's not a job that anyone want to fill because they're thinking, oh, if James Gunn couldn't do it, who's going to be able to do that? So I'd say that if he fails, then that kind of bodes not well for DC in general, movie-wise.
But is that under the assumption, though, that we're thinking of another rebooted universe? Maybe at that point. So let's take a few steps back here. So didn't James Gunn only sign a 4-year contract back in 2022? Right. So he's already 2 years in. He only has 2 years left. So Superman Legacy is going to probably be a make or break for him. If they don't make any money back, they take a loss. Whether or not the company changes ownership or not, they could out him right there, say, hey, yeah, this isn't going to work. We just lost money on your first outing. We're not doing this. And they may say, we're not rebooting it all. We're going to do independent one-off films like Joker.
Exactly.
We're going to do we were successful with Joker. Granted, it probably doesn't need a sequel. We don't know. At the time, we don't believe it needed a sequel. We don't know what the sequel's going to be like. But they might say, we're getting out of the multiverse, long 10-year plan, 20 movie universe, and we're going to do independent movies. We're going to do one every couple of years, and we're actually going to give the creative direction back to the creators. I mean, was it Dakota Johnson? I mean, when she came out and said, hey, this is what you get for Madam Web when you run a movie by committee. The artists can't be artists. The creators can't be creators. And this is what you end up getting. And she didn't care because she's like, I'm never doing one again. So deuces. Yeah, she got her paycheck and moved on. And even if Universal, or I think Phil, you said NBC Comcast, if they do buy it, I mean, there's another good chance they may say, hey, we have a different idea. Our leadership, who's now owns you, James Gunn and Peter, we have a different idea and you aren't it. So we'll let you do Superman Legacy because we've already spent the 300, was it supposed to be 300 to 360 million budget? I don't know, somewhere around there.
I think so.
You've already spent majority of that. We're going to let that release, but that's it. We're not pursuing this any further. We're going to do independent movies and get back to basics.
I mean, who knows? I mean, at this point, we're talking about hypotheticals at this point.
Right.
We simply don't know.
He's also got a 4-year contract too.
Yeah.
But we do know they have a 4-year contract. There's 2 years left, and around that time, that's when Superman towards the tail end of their contract. That's when Superman Legacy is going to come out, and that's going to, I think, be the tell to say, do we continue with this approach of this long-term 15-20 movie story that we keep trying to keep up with Marvel on, even though Marvel's been failing, but Marvel wasn't failing for 10 to 15 years. They were killing it.
Yeah.
And DC said, oh, we don't want to do our own thing, even though we have a stock full of great characters and stories. We want to try and mimic that and cash in on that. And that was, in my opinion, one thing Zach was trying to do differently, saying, let's do something different than what Marvel's doing. And but you got investors, shareholders are saying, no, they're making billions over there. Let's do what they're doing. And that got them where they're at today.
And Samuel here has an interesting question too. And I think this is a definitely interesting and potential possibility, is that, look, I have a hard time believing that James Gunn will make a bad Superman movie. Like, could it underperform depending on the audience? Sure. Like, he's a filmmaker that puts out at least consistently okay movies, right? Like the Suicide Squad, not my favorite, but I can respect that there are some quality aspects about the movie. I can admit that. But he says here, what if Superman is a good movie but underperforms? Because again, we've seen in the past when, you know, you've had movies that actually were pretty dang good, didn't quite make as much money as they wanted, and so studios panicked and reversed direction or completely changed things up. So I guess the question here is that what would WBD do in this situation?
But how do we define underperform? Underperform compared to Man of Steel, which made almost $670 million, or underperform,
which at the time it was called a success too.
Correct. Or underperform because it didn't make $1 billion. Underperform because, you know, I think that,
I don't know.
I think it's how, I mean, my opinion is how we define underperform.
Yeah. And honestly, there's a large stigma amongst people in the comic book fan community that if it doesn't make $1 billion, it's not a success. And that's
exactly.
That's kind of asinine. It's ridiculous. It's asinine. But at the same time,
particularly for Superman, because here's the like unspoken truth that a lot of comic book fans don't like to admit. Superman is not as strong of an IP as like Batman is. So that's it doesn't make sense to expect every Superman movie to make $1 billion. Can there be one? Yeah, absolutely. But you shouldn't be expecting that.
Right, exactly.
Not if he's saving cats from trees. No, don't expect it.
Well, but I mean, the whole you know, narrative that like, oh, I want Superman Legacy or Superman to bomb because I want James Gunn to fail. And in turn, I want the DCU to fail. I just think that's a very ultra pessimistic way of looking at things. It's kind of like, look, if it succeeds for the right reasons, not because you're being lied to or you're being, you know, tricked. It's going to succeed because it's actually good. It won't succeed if it's not good. But to me, it's like, look, I want to see a real, you know, a real DC universe on film. You know, we got a little bit of that with Zach's movies, and then all of a sudden the studio got involved in it and all went to shit. So I want to see a real DC universe on film. I'm hoping that what James Gunn has, you know, what he's making will actually survive and move on, because at the end of the day, it's like, I want to see these characters thrive. I want to see these characters become, you know, bigger, larger than life on the big screen. I don't want to see them come out, bomb, and then, oh, we're going to reboot again. Or we're going to focus on solo movies. And then what?
Be honest about something. I can't take James Gunn seriously when he kind of talks both sides out of his mouth. He says at one point, oh, well, these stories are going to be separate. They're not going to feed into one another. But then, like, not even 48 hours ago, he's all, oh, Peacemaker season 2 takes place after Superman Legacy or Superman, and Creature Commandos takes place before Superman, and that's kind of how the timeline is going to flow.
Well, he just needs to shut up. He needs to shut the fuck up.
Right, and I'm just like, dude, you're not making any fucking sense now. You're literally talking outside of both sides of your mouth here. Number one, number two, you're confusing fans because you got people asking like, well, how does Peacemaker season 1 factor into the DCU? And he's like, oh, well, it kind of doesn't. Like, certain things will carry over. The general
audience is not going to track that, though.
Well, that's the thing. Comic book films are not the same exact thing as comic books. You cannot treat it the same way.
There's continuity.
Exactly. And a lot of people really fail to understand that. And they, even though they want it to be that way, it's not going to land that way for the general audience. I think that goes over a lot of comic book fan film fans' heads.
Yeah,
well,
and
the general audience, real quick, Dustin, the general audience isn't gonna want to see the James Gunn humor in every single movie, like the Peacemaker
100%.
humor and like the end of Aquaman. They're not going to want to see that in every single one of his movies because he will have a hand like that.
I think we can safely say that about Creature Commandos too, right? We can safely say that about Creature Commandos because he wrote all the episodes.
David said it's hard R, and I'm like, so your first project in your universe that's going to be your audience's first take in the universe, going to be hard R animated. So you're niching it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honestly, are you stupid? Answer is probably yes.
I mean, it could be interesting to see how that pans up. Kind of going back to something that Nerd Cosa Nostra said, talking about what does it mean to underperform when it comes to Superman when it comes out. I think the answer to that question for all of us will be, how are superhero films around that time performing along with it?
Yep.
Right.
You know, like let's say, gosh, what movies are coming out in 2025 and 26? We got the new Captain America movie.
Let's keep it to this year. So right now we've got this year. We've got left on the dock Joker 2 Folie à Deux, Venom: The Last Dance, Kraven, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Those are the only 4 films I think that are hitting the dock this year as far as comic book films.
So basically, in my opinion, with that in mind, what you'd say as like a moderate success or like kind of breaking even as far as the opinion of the general audience and, you know, the studios looking at the box office is that you have to earn more than Venom 3. You have to earn way more than Kraven because those, I'm sorry, it's Sony. They're not going to make as much money as people would like them to just because, again, people aren't trusting Sony at this point with live action.
Especially
so you got to make
Captain America.
Yes. You got to make more than those. You got to at least be even with Captain America. At the very least, you got to be even with Captain America. And Deadpool, that's a stretch for a solo Superman film to beat that when you have Hugh Jackman come back with Deadpool and everything. So around the Captain America, what was the other one? Captain America and around that level of box office return. Whatever that makes, it's got to match it in order to be considered somewhat of a success by the studios, in my opinion.
Yeah. Plus, remember, Warner Brothers could be a little more desperate because have you seen that debt?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
It ain't pretty. Their stock's at like $8 a piece now. It's not looking good for them.
And at some point, those shareholders are going to come knocking, saying, "This is
100%
too much money." This is
because remember on the shareholders call, Zaslav was like, "Oh, the Flash is so great. We're going to make a lot of money."
Yep.
And
but I mean, honestly, again, like, what do you want him to say? Be like, "Yeah, we got the Flash coming out. It's a shitty movie." Or the effects look like the fucking Polar Express.
No,
you know what I mean?
Just say, hey, we have the Flash is coming out. We're very confident in the movie, and it has something for everyone. Again, you don't have to say, "Oh, this is the greatest movie ever" to the because are the shareholders going to believe you next time and have confidence in you?
Not necessarily,
but I think if they're smart, they're going to market Joker Folie à Deux the way they should, i.e., show off Joaquin. Show off Lady Gaga, show that relationship. And you know, if it even makes half of what the first film did, they'll be fine. Despite the fact the film has a fucking $200 million budget, if it makes $500 million, they're fine. They will be fine.
Yes.
But if it makes more than that, then they're going to be jumping up donuts for dollars. But we also know that they will take away the wrong fucking lessons from that movie's return.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and I hope it does well. I love the first film.
The first film's phenomenal.
Amazing.
Absolutely
Masterpiece.
I hope even if this one is just slightly not as good, I hope it returns just as good for the simple fact that this might open the eyes, as we talked about earlier, independent films.
Yes.
You don't have to have big budget. I mean, you can do something very creative, great storytelling, great character, and you can still give the audience something fresh.
You know what I would love to see is that, I don't know if they would never do this, but did you guys ever read the Lieber Mayhew book, Dear Detective?
No.
So what that was is that for a span of time, I believe it was 2022, Lieber Mayhew did a stint of a bunch of detective comics and Batman covers. And what he did is that he had constructed this narrative of Batman via these images. And throughout the book, there was like hints of like who the villain was of the book and everything. And so it's just basically a visual story of Batman on a regular night on the prowl. And I'd love to see something like that for like a mini series or something like that. Do that with superheroes. Just follow them along in their day. Not necessarily have like a huge overarching story with each one. Just show how their life is as a hero and what they do on a daily basis. I think it'd be kind of cool. But we brought up Venom 3, and Phil, you brought this to our attention earlier today. Venom 3 right now, for the time being, is called Venom 3: The Last Dance. And Jack here saying, is Michael Jordan the villain? That's a
I saw a meme, by the way, where they took Venom's head and photoshopped him onto Tobey Maguire dancing in Spider-Man 3.
Like, who signed off? Like, even if it's just a placeholder, who signed off on that?
I think this is one of the goofiest fucking titles for a comic book film
Oh
ever.
my gosh.
Period, bar none. This is somehow worse than Let There Be Carnage.
It's like, at least that one makes sense.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious one would have been Maximum Carnage, but
Yeah.
Sony, that explains that.
Yeah.
But still, like, I don't even know what the fuck you do for a third Venom movie. Like, obviously, this is Tom
King
Hardy.
in Black? I don't know.
No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But this is Tom Hardy. I think he's even outright said, like, yeah, this is like my last go around as Venom, unless Marvel Studios dumps a whole fuck truck money in front of him and being like, hey,
Which they can, but
they might. We don't know,
They
but they might. It'd be nice. Will they? I don't know. It'd be cool. But yeah, the Last Dance, I'm like, I gotta see like context for this film in order for that title to make sense to me.
Venom 3 is a musical.
Oh, gosh.
It's the year of musical superhero
shock
films.
me.
All of a sudden you have Eddie Brock and Venom singing in the rain.
They're doing show tunes. Venom creates
gosh.
a top hat on top of it.
I mean, the fact that Venom got sent back to the Sonyverse at the end of No Way Home, I was like, well, that fucked him over. Yeah, I was like, you should have left him there. You would have had so much more potential if you just would have left him, but whatever.
Honestly, you would have. But then again, studios making the wrong decisions. Even in a movie like No Way Home, which is a fun experience, even then they made a mistake where it's like, you could have set up something cool, but you just screwed yourself over.
I
but then
think
again,
it's pretty clear to me that Sony and Marvel just want to play nice when it comes to making Spider-Man, and I mean Spider-Man centric movies only. But when it comes to everything else, Sony's like, yeah, no, we're good. And it's like, no, you're really not. You guys need their help if you want more return at the box office. Those three Spider-Man movies.
You need a Spider-Man.
Yeah, seriously, and like. It's so funny because like I know that Sony came out and basically said they were disappointed in how Dakota Johnson did her press tour for Madam Web.
That's all rumor, but yeah,
I know it's rumor. But like if that's true,
about.
like Sony, can you blame Dakota Johnson for that? If that's true, could you blame her? No, you can't, because it was a crap show. You know it. We all know it. The box office obviously shows it. You can't be mad at that. You just can't.
I mean, they did hire the same writers for Morbius and the Gods of Egypt, so there's another problem.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Dude.
You do. You get what you pay for.
I still can't believe that Gods of Egypt movie was made. I remember when I saw the poster for that at a bus stop in LA, and I looked at the poster and I'm just like, what the frick is this? What is happening?
Gerard Butler was like, let's go.
Yeah, I was like, why?
They're supposed to play Egyptian gods, but it's all white people.
Yeah, it's like, what the frick?
I'm like, wait, what?
Like, I get the premise, but it was like, no.
And like, look, I'm a huge like Egypt mythology nut. Like, I grew up reading books about Egypt mythology and like Osiris and like Horus and all those guys and their inner workings and everything. And so when I saw this happening, I'm just like, and I saw the design for them, I'm just like, this is like Transformers meets Egypt. Like, what is this?
Speaking of Transformers, what really annoys me is that I feel like they're fucking turning Godzilla and Kong into the next Transformers fucking series. It's going more and more bonkers. Like King Kong has a fucking robotic like attachment on his arm. It was like, what the fuck are we doing? But I'm saying it reminds me a lot of Transformers. Like they're going like too bonkers with their ideas, and it's going to get stupider and stupider as it goes. Pretty soon they're going to be in space.
Have you seen the old Godzilla
Remember,
films though?
Fast and the Furious turned into was in space at one point.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like eventually they're going to take them to a different planet, and they're going to fight another alien monster.
Godzillas.
Something like that. I don't know.
And like Phil makes a point that like the older Godzilla films, they do get pretty ridiculous, but at the same time, it's like these movies, they started off with, Godzilla, and it was like really dark and like, people just seeing Godzilla and like it wasn't showing him very much, but it was showing.
We get to Kong, and it's like, it's a little gruesome. It's kind of not really edgy, but it's, you know, it's action packed. It's
Yeah.
paced well. Like Kong Skull Island is probably the best MonsterVerse film, even though
I
my personal favorite is still King of the Monsters. But even still, it's like
I do.
the premise is just about as the same as Transformers. You have giant monsters beating the shit out of each other. What's Transformers? Giant robots beating the shit out of each other. It's literally that. So I understand the comparison for sure, but at the same time, it's like it's inherent with this property that it is kind of goofy in that sense. Now, granted, it's also inherent for Godzilla to be a force of nature, like in Godzilla -1 too.
Yes.
So you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. And that's another thing that I think I was listening to the Sci-Fi Center earlier today, and he was talking about how, you know, you can have two different versions of Batman run simultaneously and people won't get confused. It's the same fucking thing with Godzilla. We literally just had Godzilla -1, and now we're getting Godzilla and Kong teaming up against another Kong and another ice-based fucking, you know, kaiju. So you literally get the best of both worlds when it comes to this shit.
What's up, Enosh? He's saying need Cosa Nostra. He needs him. He needs him.
He needs him.
Well, and what are really these movies, Transformers and Kong Godzilla, as far as excluding -1, summer movies, take your kids to, it's just action, popcorn. Flicks.
Yep.
That's all it is. And
all it is.
and they make the money back, whether it's through the movies, through posters, toys, whatever the case may be. And what it does, especially for Transformers, kind of reinvigorates that, toy collectors, they want to get those old nostalgic Transformer toys, and just brings it back. It just brings it back around.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, I think Transformers, though, is getting close to the Fast and Furious, where we've tapped this out. The well is dry. Let's close this out. Unless you're going to do a complete live action of the 1984-85 cartoon film, shot for shot, give me that, and I will. You got my money already. I'll watch that every day.
Absolutely. And Enosh, I know you are, but what am I?
I just want to see Gigan. I want to see Godzilla versus Gigan. I want to see Gigan come out of space and just like totally fuck Godzilla shit up, and then have Godzilla fuck his shit up. That's kind of what I want out of this, but we'll see if it actually.
And they dropped the final trailer today. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they showed briefly why Kong has that mechanical thing on his hand.
Right.
You got to see it quick, but it does show why he does have it now.
Yeah. Real quick, we got a $5 super chat here from Connor Dorian. Here's an explosion for you. Connor here says Sam Raimi has said that he is willing to do a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4. I've seen this being circulated quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd fucking do it. Do it.
Ironically, like 15 years ago yesterday, they announced like Spider-Man 4 with Tobey was happening.
But it's weird because like he wants to do it, right? And then you go over and like, you know, you have Andrew Garfield and them who are saying, yeah, you know, I don't want to do another Amazing Spider-Man, but it's such a mess.
It's like Sony, if you want to earn people's trust back after doing Madam Web, that atrocity, then make Tobey's Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi and make Andrew's Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Mark Webb. If you bring those guys back and make those movies, you'll let people.
But again, doing a Spider-Man 4, doing an Amazing Spider-Man 3, that's like, to me, that's like saying let's do Zack Snyder Justice League Part 2. You know what I mean? It's like, what's it gonna take?
It's a little different.
I mean, obviously the ensemble is not as grand as Justice League, but I'm saying like the concept, like, oh, here we. What's on drugs? What?
He's quoting a clip that him and I had done with the Cloverfield.
I was like, what? But again, it's like, you know, you have fans clamoring for, you know, these iterations of the characters and these stories, but yet, you know, the studios only want to do what they want to do.
I feel like
and it's sad.
I feel like if Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire came back and did a Spider-Man 4, it would not be the same Spider-Man 4 they were initially planning 15 years ago.
Oh, no.
It would be a very different Spider-Man.
It wouldn't be the Vulture with John Malkovich.
No, it would not. I don't know if
was
Bruce
it John
Campbell,
Malkovich?
It was John Malkovich.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
He would have been like, Spider-Man, I'm here to kill you.
I thought it was also, wasn't Ben Kingsley in the running for that as well?
He was going to be the Vulture, I believe. Ben Kingsley.
I never heard about that. I always heard it was John Malkovich and only John Malkovich. I know
either one would be jarring to see. Like, oh God.
Anne Hathaway was supposed to be in it too as Felicia Hardy.
Ooh.
So she went from one cat to another.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, I don't know about how true this is, but I think like Sam Raimi also said something, if someone did, but someone wanted Bruce Campbell to like cameo as like their version of Mysterio for that movie. Like they were going to open up with
the original
Spider-Man.
script.
Yes, that's why they were like trying to open up like one of the movies with Toby fighting off Mysterio. It was going to be fucking Bruce Campbell, and I was like, oh, you know, I can get behind that.
That'd be fun.
It'd be fun, especially after seeing Far From Home. Like, you know, Mysterio's in a movie again, but it's, you know, quick here, blink and you miss it type deal.
Yeah. Well, that'd be pretty sweet, I think. But yeah,
Sony
make Spider-Man 4 and Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then you bring fans back.
I would do
make Andrew your in-universe Spider-Man. Have a
Spider-Man make that decision
in a Spider-Man universe.
I've had this discussion. Phil says it doesn't really matter, and I get what he's saying, but I would rather have Andrew Garfield be that Spider-Man if he's willing to do it. I think it would make things so much better.
I think the problem is he's not willing to work with Sony's current people.
Probably not.
No one wants to work with Sony's people.
And then, not to mention, like Morbius in the trailer, it showed Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, like you know, on the wall. You know, it was like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Michael Keaton had the cameo that we never saw. It was like, huh? Nothing made any sense.
And then the Keaton cameo we did get was really like confusing.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Morbius. You know, it was like, whoa.
He's like, I don't know why I'm here in this universe. It must be something to do with Spider-Man. So you want to?
And then they asked him too. They're like, did it make? They said no. They couldn't explain it to me.
And he was like, yeah, you know, they couldn't even really explain it to me. It's like, then what the fuck are you guys even doing trying to make this shit happen without a clear roadmap? Like, what the fuck?
Well,
he's like, why am I in this for? Don't worry about it. Okay.
Well, remember, it was like what WB told the Batgirl directors. They were like, when they asked, how come like the Snyderverse Gordon is here with Michael Keaton's Batman? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because who was it? Yeah, they were asking Hamada, how does that make any sense? Don't worry about it. Just make your movie.
Yeah.
And like, look, I get it. It was supposed to be a mashup of all the universes, so you can kind of pick and choose who you want to represent each character. But I'm sorry, but to do Batgirl as an HBO Max exclusive movie, that again, another terrible move, because you're like, oh, so now you're going to lower the budget to do HBO Max movie that's going to introduce another character. Look, in hindsight, look at what happened with Mrs. Marvel and all the characters that came out on Disney Plus. When the Marvels came out, general audiences, not everyone knew who the fuck Miss Marvel was. They're like, wait, who's this girl? Didn't she have a show or something? So that model, that idea of like, oh, let's have this on HBO Max, that probably would have blew up in their face.
That's another reason why I'm not that convinced on James Gunn's plan, because he says he has all these shows, he has all this tie-in material, all this homework, the audience is already burnt out when it comes to shared universes on homework. Because now, in order to understand like what happened in like Thor, you have to have watched like 18 different projects in order to understand it.
Yeah,
that was the moment that the MCU really took a shit on themselves, is when they put out Thor: Love and Thunder. Like after that, everything that came out, not everything, but like a lot of shit that came out was just fucking garbage. Obviously Loki was really good.
Well. Loki was good.
It wasn't received well, and it didn't. Is that a Rockstar you're drinking?
Yeah.
Oh, I love.
Are we putting you to sleep, Phil?
No.
Dude, I love original Rockstar
every fucking morning.
So good.
Come on now.
When it hits your lips the first time, like, it's so good.
But it is the fact that James Gunn's trying to do both TV shows for Max, movies tie in, is just another example, and games, and it's just another example of
that made me laugh.
Worked for MCU, worked for Disney. Let's try it over here, and where we can get people more invested.
I think from
and then up the subscribers on HBO Max. That's what their goals gonna be as well. Let's try to get more subscribers to the platform.
I think from a monetary perspective, you're not putting a whole bunch of like eggs into a basket as far as like theatrical releases are concerned. You're spreading it out. Yeah, that's great. But at the same time, it's like so many people are so spurned and scorned based on what's transpired with DC. You already have an uphill battle going up against you when it comes to making a new universe. So good luck to you getting this shit even remotely on the same page as Marvel Studios right now. And even then, they're still kind of struggling given their last year of theatrical films and even TV shows. No one likes Secret Invasion. Like once that last episode hit, everybody was like,
it doesn't help that it came with that they told Samuel Jackson not to read the comic.
That was brutal. Secret Invasion was so brutal. It was
started off so strong, and then it just went out with the biggest whiff since
Oh.
Iron Man 3. It was just not great.
But even that, okay, so the Marvels takes place after Secret Invasion.
Allegedly, right?
Yet Gaia's character, Emilia Clarke, was nowhere to be found. I was like, okay, so you obviously made this film before you made Secret Invasion, so you have no way of introducing her character in this movie because, well, you didn't know of the character, or you didn't have her ready. It was just kind of crazy. It was like, oh my god, and Secret Invasion was.
It's almost like the people working on Secret Invasion didn't even bother like explaining what the fuck they were doing to everyone else making movies, or even like Kevin Feige himself.
Yeah, and not to mention Rhodey. You're like, wait, so how long has he been a Skrull? And then like I think one of the writers of
the
Secret Invasion
showrunner,
was like,
the showrunner was like,
oh, he's been Rhodey since Civil War or whatever. I was like, what?
Maybe.
Why would you do that? Like
he was like, maybe since Civil War. What the fuck do you mean maybe?
Exactly. Why maybe? Make a decision.
So the whole time I'm watching Infinity War and Endgame, I'm watching a fucking Skrull, not only a Skrull, but a female Skrull be Rhodey. Like I was just like, oh god, this is stupid. And then how does this Skrull know how to do how to control the suit, all the different features and all that? It's kind of like,
wouldn't the suit also like pick up like that this isn't Rhodey? Because I think in like Iron Man 2 in an offhand line they said it has like DNA like scanners.
You would think it would, or like a retinal scanner or something. I don't know.
If they really want to retcon that shit, they better make it a point in Armored Wars to be like, yeah, he went in for surgery on this date after Endgame, and that's when the switch happened.
They have to.
They kind of have
to show.
They have to.
They have to. If they don't address that, that's a huge fuck up.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's another one. Armor Wars, like it was going to be a show. Now it's going to be a movie.
Right.
Oh wait, no, it's going to be a show. No, it's going to be a movie. So I mean,
here's the thing: where the fuck does that even fall in the slate? Phase 6, obviously. Where on Phase 6? I don't know. Idea. No one knows.
Yeah,
it's going to be after Avengers 5. It looks like, because
maybe.
I mean, already they're building up to Avengers 5 with both Daredevil Born Again, the series, and then Spider-Man 4 is supposedly like as what they're using to build up into Avengers 5, which we don't even know what the premise of Avengers 5 is anymore, because it's
not Kang Dynasty.
It's not Kang Dynasty.
Nope.
You know what I mean? So I would imagine Kang is going to be in it in some way, in some fashion. I don't know how, but they have to wrap that up somehow. I mean, they kind of did at the end of Loki season 2. They were like, "Yeah, we're keeping an eye on all the other Loki variants." They're almost like, "Hey, maybe they'll just forget that the audience saw that huge auditorium full of Kangs, all like, yeah."
They're not going to want the bad press. I don't even think they're going to touch it.
Here's how you fix that. You have them. You have a movie start off maybe with Secret Wars. Dr. Doom rolls into that Coliseum and just murks everyone. That's how you wrap that up.
That's not how that's going to happen.
It's not, but it'd be pretty sick.
That's a way to do it.
It'd be pretty sick.
Galactus shows up and steps on all of them.
Exactly. Just do something.
But speaking of delayed projects, I think this is a good transition to the main topic that was for today's stream. With the news that came out earlier, I think it was earlier today, that the Batman sequel, the Batman Part 2 or the Batman 2 or whatever they're going to be calling it, is now being delayed until October 2026. It's supposed to come out next year, but it's now delayed an extra year. And there's a lot of talk about that, and a lot of different reasons given. But I kind of want to pick your guys' brain about this because, with any other company, with any other studio, I wouldn't really think twice about this. I mean, especially when we had the writer's strike, and so it makes sense like things are kind of pushed back a little bit. But at the same time, this is also a Warner Brothers-esque company, Warner Brothers Discovery, where in the past we've had things postponed and put on the back burner a little bit, pushed back to the point where sometimes they're either never released or they get made in a way to where it just doesn't come off as well as either the previous film or whatever the case may be. And so I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say about this delay. Does it concern you at all? And if it does, like, what are some things specifically that concern you? I guess we can start with Phil here about that, because since you have the Batman shirt on here today.
There you go.
Number one, when I saw this news, I wasn't surprised. Like, Craig and I have been talking about it here and there on the Eternal Night. Like, when the strikes happened and it indefinitely delayed so much shit and it pushed back so many people's schedules, I was like, there's no way the Batman meets October 5th, October 3rd, whatever, 2025. There's just no way. And then you factor that in with like, you know, Jeffrey Wright saying, oh, I haven't seen a script. You know, you had Matt Tomlin and Matt Reeves out there on the picket lines. Like they were striking, rightfully so. On top of that, like, you know, given that DC is all in on Superman at the moment, do you really think it's a good idea to have like 2 big name superhero films in the same year? Like, yeah, I get the synergy aspect of it, but would it be financially feasible for them to like have it that way? Maybe, but I don't know. On top of the fact that, you know, there have been rumors of like, oh, Clayface might be the villain, Hush might be the villain. I'm going to go back to Batman v Superman because that movie notoriously got pushed back from May 2015 July 2015 to May 2016, and then again to March 2016. What happened? They retooled the script with Chris Terrio. They went through a couple different development differences. First, you know, we saw concept art. Well, not first, but like we found out Metallo at one point might have been a villain by way of, you know, Scoot McNairy's character. Then it turned into Doomsday. I think Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin also want to just take their time to really flesh out and make a solid sequel to the first one. Let's also not forget, it took Matt Reeves like 2 years to fully complete the first script to the first film.
That's
so you couple that in again with the strikes that pushed everyone's schedule back for whatever they had planned. Everyone's schedule just went out the fucking window once those strikes happened. So whoever was on board to be for production or be there in acting, it does not matter. Like all of that went out the fucking window once those strikes happened, and then schedules reshuffled and changed. Other people probably have. I mean, look at Greg Fraser. He's just wrapping up Dune, you know, press for Dune 2. He's more than likely, I would imagine, hopefully going to be the DP on Batman Part 2. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not at all shocked or surprised by this. The fact they pushed it back a full year tells me they want to keep that Halloween-ish energy for the Batman because they wanted it for Part 1. They didn't get it for, you know, COVID-related reasons. And I also think that, like, I don't think the budget for Part 2 is going to be as massive as it was for Part 1. I mean, it could be, but I'm not going to say that definitively. And again, I'm really just kind of boiling it down to like a creative perspective. Like, let Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin do their thing. Like, let them make the script they want to make. And all this nonsense about, oh, James Gunn's, he's got a grudge against it. He wants to cancel it because Brave and the bullshit. There's no fucking way he's going to try and get in the way of Matt Reeves because Matt Reeves already walked away once. There's no fucking way they're letting him walk away again, especially with how successful that first film was. I don't care what anybody says. There's no fucking way that movie gets canceled.
That's fair. Andre, what do you think?
I would say that, look, they just finished production on the Penguin season 1. If they were planning on not moving forward with the Batman, then they would have already made massive changes to that show or reduced the number of episodes, you know, but they just finished that. And not to mention, look, in the grand scheme of things, as a studio, right? WB, they want to stay in the Matt Reeves business. They want more films from Matt Reeves. May it be more Batman films, more whatever films he wants to do. They want to make sure that his home is at WB. They're all about, supposedly, they're all about trying to acquire and keep their talent. That's why they're signing, you know, these contracts to Tom Cruise and
Andy
Muschietti, and so they want to stay in the Matt Reeves business. And so because of that, just like how they want to stay in the Todd Phillips business, they want him to stay with them and make more projects. If they go over and say, hey, look, we're not going to go ahead and do your Batman Part 2. We're just going to cancel this project. The Penguin series will come out, will make no sense, and then we'll lose a lot more fans and piss off a lot of people, and we'll also piss you off, and you'll likely go over to Universal or another studio, Paramount, and make more movies, and not with us because now we've pissed you off. I just don't see them doing that because that doesn't make any sense, especially when you're talking about a studio who's trying to make money. And the Batman made how much money?
About $770 million.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think anything over $700 million is considered a success, if you ask me. I mean, obviously, if it hit 800 or 900, that's even better. But I don't see them canceling the Batman because there's no reason to, because it's already established. You have a great director in Matt Reeves attached to it. So there's no reason to stop it from happening.
Right. And Jared, what about your take?
My take is really, it's the same reason why I knew that they were never going to like fold in a Matt Reeves Batman into the DCU, because they don't want to piss off Reeves. And this is also a studio that they lost Nolan, they lost Zach. Are they really going to risk losing another creative?
Exactly.
It's so they're not going to risk pissing them off. Is it concerning that it was pushed forward a year? Yeah. Is it like Apocalypse? No. I don't think it's that bad. Granted, this is Warner Brothers. Anything could happen, but
that's fair.
With the information I have available to me right now, I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, everything's going down.
Yeah, that's fair. And how about you, Nerd Cosa Nostra?
I mean, I'll echo some of the things that have already been said. You spend 200 million, you make 772 million back on the first film. You've invested time, money on a Penguin series. I don't see it getting canceled. I think where it's landed now is that's what's going to happen. You definitely don't want to lose another creative, just as Jared said. I mean, 3 big names in the industry that aren't going to be willing to work with your studio any further, or go sign long-term deals with other studios like Zach did with Netflix to do their own thing and have that freedom to do so. The only thing that worries me is the whole Superman and Lois thing. We don't want to confuse the audience having That's 2 Supermen out there. So we're canceling this now. Part of me doesn't want to hear that excuse come up when Superman Legacy is done. And let's say, his Batman is the next one to kick off. And then we haven't seen Batman 2 yet. And then that same excuse will come up and it'll be like, oh, well, we told Andy to go spend more time with his family. We don't need his services anymore. Or Matt or whoever that might get impacted by that decision. I like to see both Batman. I like to see both films.
See,
the Superman Lois decision is what worries me. That's my only outlier, is that excuse of we don't want to confuse the audience. The audience wants variety. We want to see.
But it's on CW. I think that's one thing they were like, hey, why do we still have a show on network television? Fucking pull that shit out of here and let's just end that shit.
You could have they could have been wrapped up much cleaner than it was, it was
Absolutely.
more. But for me, it was the excuse of we don't want to confuse the audience. The audience wasn't confused for the last 3 years that show has been going. Everyone, and you had an audience who loved that show, just like you had an audience who loved Smallville or who loved all these other iterations of TV Superman, and there were still live action films happening or animated. Everyone had their own thing that they liked, but once you start taking away and saying you're not smart enough to tell the difference between my Superman 2025 and this show that might still be out, so I'm going to take this away and this is all you're going to get, and you'll get it when I'm ready to give it to you.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that worries me about his rationale. Otherwise, I think the Batman Part 2 will happen, but I do think it'll probably be the last one. I don't see a third one happening.
No,
look, and I think that's why, real quick, I think that's why James Gunn went out of his way to designate, okay, then we're going to have our DC Elseworlds, which is the Joker and Batman, because again, I think when it comes down to it, the studio doesn't want to lose the business of Todd Phillips and Matt Reeves.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I think it's like, hey, you have to make the exceptions for these guys. We don't want to lose these filmmakers. When it comes to DCEU, I mean, what, you're losing the actors? I mean, he probably already put Jason Momoa like, hey, I'm going to cast you as Lobo. He's like, yeah, and so it's kind of like, there wasn't like a filmmaker or a producer or some kind of figurehead that he was, chopping the head off and saying, okay, now we're going to do DCU. That was just a big fucking mess of a universe that it ended up being once they basically took it away from Zach. It turned into a huge mess.
Yeah. So my thing with this, you're going, my bad. But with this is that as far as the news coming out, I can absolutely understand the immediate knee-jerk reaction of some fans being like, oh, this seems very familiar, because again, we look back on like 2007, 2018. Yeah, exactly. The Affleck movie. People said, oh, we were guaranteed a Affleck movie a while back. They made announcements of postponing it. Then they made announcements of Ben Affleck's now going to star in it, but he's not directing it. They bring Matt Reeves in. So like fans have kind of done a dance that resembles this early announcement before. And so I can understand immediately people being like, oh, whoa, what the heck? Like they better not get rid of it. But like you guys said, these logistical reasons, they're not going to get rid of it. But I do agree with Sean a little bit here that if they do make the second one, even though Matt Reeves did sign on for 3 films, and I think Pattinson did too, I could definitely see a situation where they allow them to make the sequel, and that's what a lot of conversations are happening right now. And they kind of, end the series with 2 movies. I'd love to see 3. Obviously, I loved the Batman, and I'd love to see as much of that as I possibly can. But I could see a situation like that because at the end of the day, although the studio says like, oh, we want like all this stuff, studios don't like competition. They don't like competition. They don't want anything in the way of their financial return at the box office, especially right now when getting that financial return is harder than it has been in recent years when it comes to superhero projects. And so I can definitely see the argument of them being like, okay, we'll cut this series short. We'll let you make the second one. We'll cut it short. But again, the reasons you guys said, the Batman was successful. It made a ton of money. It created a lot of buzz. It's, kind of brought people into a new DC universe to get invested in. And for me, like the Batman universe is my DCU right now. That's the stuff that I'm excited for. I'm excited for the Penguin show, the Batman 2, whenever that comes out, of course, now being slated for 2026. So there's a lot of people who think that way. And so there's no way, in my opinion, that they're going to get rid of it. But I can definitely understand the initial apprehension. That's
the other thing.
Let's do Phil first.
I do think that Dave Pena has a really good theory in that if they're really smart, they'll let him write 2 and 3 and shoot 2 and 3 back to back. That way you guarantee he gets his trilogy done and out of the way by the time Brave and the Bold comes around.
I like that.
It'd be smart. It'd be probably one of the smartest things they've done in the last fucking decade. But, time will tell.
And isn't Penguin just a limited run, like a season 1? They're not, it's just that, right?
Yeah.
They're not doing anything beyond that.
Just bridging the gap between the Batman and the Batman 2.
Right.
It's crazy to think that they didn't shoot Dune 1 and Dune 2 back to back. That's even crazier. But Jared, what were you going to say?
The other thing when it comes to Batman, and I alluded to this earlier, is that Batman's a stronger IP than Superman is. That's the difference between this and Superman and Lois. So they could conceivably have like 2 Batman, because Batman is one of those things where if you put out a Batman anything, people will show up.
Batman prints money.
As opposed to Superman, who it's not as much of a guarantee as it is when you have like Batman.
Yeah, very, very true. So again, I understand the initial apprehension, but when logic takes hold, there's no reason to really be concerned that it doesn't come out. Now, could it face like some production issues and maybe some changes that are forced on Matt Reeves? Potentially. I mean, this is, again, Warner Brothers is talking about. But again, like it's been pointed out multiple times, Matt Reeves is a very well-loved director, makes quality content, quality movies, and so pushing him out would be dumb.
I think if James Gunn tries to put his knee on Matt Reeves, I think Matt Reeves could be say, screw it, I'm out, peace.
He'll bite back.
You're not getting your second film, or you can finish it yourself. And then if we hear that happen and James Gunn says, okay, I'll finish it, man, pitchforks and torches is going to happen. I mean, you're going to have people will riot over that. And you might as well just leave it as one film and one short TV series and just leave it alone.
Yeah. Also, that's a good point. Although, like with the
when you think about the CEO, shareholders, investors, they're going to say, no, finish it because we want to return on the investment we've already made and we want to make money.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's what's going to push Gunn. No matter what Gunn what he wants to do, what he tries to portray, he's in charge of everything. He ultimately answers to somebody who has the purse strings.
Yeah.
Well, and the idea that Phil was saying about shooting the Batman Part 2 and 3 back to back, I don't know if you can do that depending on how intricate and how detailed the story is for each one. I mean, now you're saying, okay, hey, look, not only do we want you to finish the script on Part 2, but we want you to finish the script on Part 3 so that you can shoot them back to back. So it's like, whoa. And so then now he has another year to not even you know what I'm saying? He has another year to write a Part 2 and a Part 3. I think if anything, he's going to focus on Part 2, make sure Part 2 is quality before he puts it out there and starts filming it. But it's possible they could do that. I just think that's the way that the first film turned out. I don't see how you would shoot a Part 1 and a Part 2 and 3 together, because they're both like, I think they're both going to have their own feel and their own tone and their own story to each one of them.
I mean, unless one directly leads into the other. Now, the main question that I have is that once this movie comes out in 2026, it will have been, 5 years since the Batman came out? And so my question for that is that, the Batman movie ended in a way where it kind of seemed like it was going to transition to a sort of era of extreme lawlessness in Gotham City due to the flooding of the city, people trying to take over, like Penguin taking over the gangs and everything. And so it's the idea of like, oh, immediately they're going to deal with the aftermath of that. But now it coming out a couple years or a couple more years later than expected. Now, how do you approach that story? I mean, Robert Pattinson, he's going to be in his 40s by the time it comes out. I mean, he'll still be 38 or 39 when it's filmed. So there's going to be some interesting things there. Is there going to be a noticeable difference in time? Are they going to point out like, oh, it's been this many years since this happened or whatnot? How are they going to address it in that way?
Yeah, and there's going to be some kind of time jump, but I don't know how much they're going to do. But the other argument I've heard is that like, oh, Pattinson is 40 years old and that, or like that's how old Henry Cavill was, and he said he was too old. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. I just want to, at this point, if we're going to get more movies with Robert Pattinson as Batman, we're going to get one or two more, then so be it. Like, I'm happy for that. I want to see that. Why bring that narrative up again and say, hey, Henry Cavill should have been, he should have been Superman, but he's not. And I don't think anything that we do is going to bring him back unless, And
that's where I'm at with the whole old regime, new regime. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I like Zack Snyder's films.
Absolutely.
I liked his iterations, but I have accepted you accept reality that it's over. It's done. Yeah. We're not going to get Justice League 2, Justice League 3. We're not going to see the Batman. I mean, those are not going to happen. If they ever did happen, you're talking 10, 15 years, and you think Ben Affleck at his age is going to want to come back and do that, or none of them are going to
after all he's been through. No,
exactly. As much as I would love to see it, we're not going to see it, whether it's live, animated, comic book. I don't think any of that's going to happen.
Right.
They've put a stake in the ground saying new DCU, James Gunn, Peter Safran, this is the direction we're going. Get on board or go watch something else. That's pretty much what they're saying at this point. I think they're tired of hearing the bring Henry back, bring Ben back. They're not bringing them back. Those guys have all moved on to new projects.
Yeah.
I mean, do they really want to put themselves right back into the fold of all this drama? Probably.
And I mean,
not.
Henry's rumoredly been put in the MCU, for instance. So it's like
bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know how much
it hasn't even been. It has not even been confirmed.
It's not.
So it's like it's speculation, but there's nothing. There's been no substantial report that has led to it. And I'm not saying that you're saying that it's true. I'm just saying like we've been hearing about it for a long time, but we still haven't heard any confirmation at all about who or what or
because
where
he's saying like,
character.
he's in the MCU. Then there's even ones that are going even further, saying, oh, he's in Deadpool 3 as the new Wolverine. That's bullcrap. That's no way.
I'm sorry, but Holyfield News is like you're turning into the next Geekosity. I mean, come on, dude.
I'm putting it right here, right now. Bullshit. He's not going to step into another giant cinematic universe after one already fucked him. There's no way he's going to do that. He's busy with Warhammer and Highlander. Why would he bother going to the MCU?
So
gosh, I hope they don't screw up Highlander.
Why would he go be fucking either Doctor Doom or Captain Britain? What fucking sense does that make? None.
I've said repeatedly this would be a big FU from Marvel to DC is if they brought back the whole cast, had them play the Squadron Supreme, and have Zack Snyder direct it.
They wouldn't, but that'd be funny.
They would never do it, but that would be freaking hilarious.
The only character that I would want to see Henry Cavill play, like Cyclops would be cool, but then that's a long-term character. I don't see him doing that. I think the best character that he could play would be like Doctor Doom.
I don't even see that happening.
I don't see it either, but I'm saying I could see him playing it because he'll be in a few movies and then you won't see him for a while. It's not a character that has to be a reoccurring character, constantly. Like if you were Cyclops, and then you're committing to a role in multiple appearances for the next like 5 to 10 years, whatever. But I think if you're Doctor Doom, it could be something smaller. I don't know. It's weird.
It could be like one villain or maybe two and done at most.
Plus, here's the thing about him playing Doctor Doom. The mask is on. He can just record voice lines and then occasionally for when Doom comes back. He doesn't have to be there physically in the suit.
Yeah, I could pull a Pedro Pascal when it comes to the Mandalorian and just
How many other people have we seen fan casted as Doctor Doom? I mean, Cillian Murphy, Henry Cavill,
Mads
Driver,
Mikkelsen.
It's like the list is never ending, and it's like whoever they cast.
What was that one?
Nickatina.
Yeah. I think I had to turn that down though.
I saw some breaking news on that.
I had to turn it down.
The list is never ending. Whoever they cast is whoever they decide to cast, and I doubt it's going to be one of those people.
Oh yeah, that's another one too. Cillian Murphy. They're like, yeah, he could be Doctor Doom. I'm like, dude, okay, cool.
I mean,
Let's
Henry's
wait and
got the Warhammer movies, the TV show, Highlander, which we will more than likely probably see a Highlander sequel.
Yeah.
Especially with Chad Stileski. Like, yeah, that's his thing.
So, I mean, and most of those aren't even in pre-production, scripts written. I mean, nothing's done for those. I mean, we're not going to see him in the MCU or DC ever again. It's done.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you were to be any kind of character, it'd be like a villain that doesn't have to be reoccurring as much as, you know, like the regular characters. You know, you only see him in team up movies. I don't know.
Or he just does a voiceover.
Henry Cavill
it's just
as
his voice.
Galactus.
That'd be hilarious. But speaking of like fan castings for like villains and such, kind of turning back to the Batman for a second. In the sequel, there's been a lot of rumors of who the villain's going to be, you know, what type of story it's going to be. But if it were up to you, if you were in the director's chair in the writer's room with Matt Reeves, who would you have as the villain of the Batman? And if you could think of it on the spot, what direction would you take it with that villain?
Oh, I know mine off the top of my head.
Yeah, go ahead.
Court of Owls and Mr. Freeze.
Ooh.
Without a doubt. Court of Owls and Mr. Freeze. Like, how else do you justify having those talons on ice with Mr. Freeze?
Oh, there you go. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
not hard.
I can see that because then it would connect together and it makes sense. Because I would say either or. Like, you know, there's a lot of. It seems like every Batman movie they're like, yeah, it's got to be 2 villains or 3 villains. I just like it when it's one. You know, and that is the main. I mean, like the Dark Knight kind of was like that, but then they kind of shoehorned Two-Face into it at the end. It was like, oh, we're gonna get Two-Face now. Oh, now he's dead.
Well,
you
like,
know,
look.
And by the way, Batman killed him in that movie.
He killed him.
There you go.
Look at the Batman though. Like you had Zoe Kravitz there as Catwoman. She was kind of like not necessarily an antagonist.
Well, but Catwoman is
she was a force in that movie. Then you also had Oswald Cobblepot, again another antagonist. But the main villain of the story was the Riddler.
Yep.
You know, it's not how many characters you have; it's how you utilize them.
Exactly. But they see with Matt Reeves, the Batman, they utilize those characters as a part of the universe that he's in, as opposed to like, you know, you look at Batman and Robin, whatever. They were like, 2 villains, go. You know, it's like, oh my god,
Bane.
And I was like, oh man. But you know, I think that you could easily do Mr. Freeze, and then that would lead to the Court of Owls for the third one. Like they're using his technology. You find out they're using his technology.
Yeah, like Jack is saying here, Mr. Freeze works for the court, and they promise him a cure for his wife. That's why he works for them.
Let's kick some ice.
But yeah, I mean, I could see this working. Absolutely, I'd be more than down for that.
Yeah.
For me though, I think because they hinted it so blatantly in the Batman movie. I mean, Hush. I mean, you had the writer who was killed because of Thomas Wayne going to Falcone. His last name was Elliot, and so you could easily have it to where
and the words "Hush" flash on the screen.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And like, yes, it would be different from the comics where Thomas Elliot was a childhood friend of Bruce, and you know all that stuff. It would change that, but it would give Thomas Elliot more of a understandable vendetta against Bruce, because in the comics, of course, Thomas Elliot is just jealous of Bruce because, you know, he got his parents' money because his parents were dead, whereas he had to live with his mom for a long time while she was sick and didn't inherit his money for a long time. And so it's that weird jealousy there. But in this, it would make a lot more sense to where your dad was the reason my dad was killed. Like that kind of is like a Uno reverse card there in a sort of way. And so it puts him on a personal vendetta. But I'd also love to see Clayface. There was a rumor showing that they would do Clayface more of like he wears his victims' faces to commit crimes. And like that'd be kind of cool, like almost kind of making it sort of Leatherface-ish, which like with the grounded universe the Batman is, I could see that working pretty well. Matt Reeves being able to pull that off. But I would love to see them use another villain that forces Batman to utilize his detective skills, because they leaned into that so heavily in the first one. Continuing that would only just make sense.
Whoa.
But
Sorry about that.
It's Netflix.
Yeah.
But Jared and Nerd, what do you guys think?
I say Hush because again they set it up really well. Plus, you can have like you can still have where like Hush became a doctor, and you can adapt the sort of idea that they had in the Arkham games, where like Hush was like taking skin from the victims and make himself look like Bruce Wayne, and then Hush starts committing crimes looking like Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I think the
part.
whole Hush character could be portrayed really, really cool by Matt Reeves in the Batman's universe. But again,
Well, he
you're
said
talking
Hush
about
at one point, right? Like as
Yeah,
potential
I think
feature
he
villain.
said Hush.
He mentioned Hush
Yeah,
at one point, I think,
but
along with
I
Mr.
feel
Freeze.
like if you did Hush again, you're looking at like a serial killer type feel, and I think we've kind of done that with the Riddler.
Okay.
I
Sure.
think I like the idea of Mr. Freeze, and then that leading to the Court of Owls.
Hold on one second. Axel, you're wrong. By the way, you're just dead wrong.
No,
He's
but
just
no,
trolling
right,
right now.
continue.
He's just trolling. And then real quick, I just want to show you this picture. I thought it was fun. I thought it looked cool. It's not real, but it's not, I don't believe in it, but I think it looked cool the way somebody
That's
made
the
it.
funny edit.
marketing poster for Brave and the Bold right there.
Where's that model of the Batman from? That's a good.
I
model.
know. That's why I was like, why? I
want
seen that
that.
before.
Someone puts the
Honestly.
time in, but I want that to be the marketing.
Yeah, somebody
poster
put the
for
time
Brave and
into
the
that
Bold.
one. But
Honestly.
anyway, I thought that was cool. But I like. I mean, to me, I was when they said the Batman was getting delayed, I was actually like, cool. Like, I'd rather him have more time to work on the script. And what really annoys me is you have people out there putting out the narrative that like, oh, they're delaying the Batman. Yeah, that's kind of like how Ben Affleck couldn't crack the script, and that's kind of, trying to put the narrative out there that like, oh, this is an indication that things are going badly for Matt Reeves, the Batman, and that his project might be coming to an end. It's kind of like, come on, man, get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
like if
this
things
is
start to
WB
snowball,
we're
then
talking
sure.
about though.
It
Yeah, so-
is, but I mean, like they went out of their way to designate this as an Elseworld story, and yet, and they finished the Penguin series or season 1, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And now they're gonna be like, all right, let's just scrap the whole project. It's kind of like, what?
They
No
canceled the
way.
Batgirl movie,
You know, one of the
so
other
it was
things
good.
I've seen is
Yeah,
like
but there's nothing in the Batgirl movie. I mean, you had Michael Keaton.
despite the fact that they've made it
He didn't give a
abundantly
shit.
clear that like
Uh-huh.
they're not folding this shit into the DCU, there are still some fans out there who are like, "Oh yeah, they should totally fold the Batman into the DCU." I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
like,
like,
Oh,
it
I
won't work.
know.
what the fuck are you talking
Work
about?
in a universe with superhumans. I'm sorry, this Batman
I'm just
won't
like,
work.
no, I don't care how badly you want to see David Cornsweet stand next to Robert Pattinson. It's not going to look good.
Yeah,
No.
it won't.
It's goofy. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's a lack of media literacy that leads to demands for something like that, in my own
100%.
personal opinion.
Mhm.
But Sean, what was your idea of like a villain for the next one?
I mean, I know everyone wants to see Court of Owls, Hush, all that. I know we've seen Scarecrow already in Nolan's world, but I want to see a Scarecrow look like from Batman Arkham Knight
Yeah.
with the needles on his
Oh.
fingers, a
Yeah.
really scary looking Scarecrow.
Oh yeah.
But to get away from the typical, and we all know we all know these typical villains, but what about a villain that isn't as well known but just as bad, like Mad Hatter, right? Or Professor Pig. I mean, I want to see like these diabolical ones, or the anti-Joker, right?
Mhm.
That could utilize the detective skills aspect of this Batman versus just, it's just battle sequences, right?
Mhm.
That's one thing that I really liked about the approach with the Riddler. It was more of a detective noir type story versus
It was cerebral.
just the constant action sequences with a
then
little bit of dialogue
again,
in there.
Well, the Riddler is a villain that's very conducive to that because you typically have to
Yep.
solve his
Yeah.
riddles.
And that's why I would like to see something like Mad Hatter, like a live action Mad Hatter, and see how Matt Reeves can create that character in his world.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Honestly, I would love to see him try and like ground Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see him take a crack at the ventriloquist.
Oh, that
That'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be a good
that'd
one.
be dope, right?
I mean, you could also do like Hugo Strange.
Yeah, there's
and
that.
have that whole aspect in there.
And with the ventriloquist, you can have him sort of like go up against the Penguin and try to opt for power in the power vacuum of Gotham City. That could be interesting.
I want to see something that hasn't been done. That's why I'm not so keen on like Mr. Freeze, Harley Quinn. I mean, we know these characters. Let's see something.
no
new and
Harley
fresh.
Quinn.
I think
That's
it's
what I'm
pretty.
saying. We've seen that.
But here's the thing, though, is that like I think eventually, if you're Matt Reeves, you have to do the Joker. I mean, had him in the first film in two different ways.
Also,
I don't think so. We have the Joker. We have a part 2 of a Joker coming out. The Joker aspect in the first one was perfect. It was just there. You knew it was coming. It wasn't. The film wasn't dependent on that character's story.
But
and if he wants to include him in the second one, he could play the same type of role where Batman has to interact with him. Like, what do you know about this villain?
I liked that scene.
Him in a way. Like Hannibal Lecter, kind of utilizing him in a way, but not really making him a pivotal part of the story.
Yeah, 100%. I also think like there's absolutely a setup there for Harvey Dent. I'm pretty sure Harvey Dent's going to make an appearance at some point down the line too, because obviously they killed the district attorney in part 1. Yep. Rumors are that Two-Face, Harvey Dent himself, might show up in the Penguin show. Wouldn't shock me at all. Yeah. So I feel like Harvey Dent's like getting primed to be introduced in this universe at some point too.
Billy D. Williams making his return.
As the Lego Two-Face.
The Lego Two-Face.
Just have the Lego minifigure.
Oh my gosh, man! Speaking of Lego minifigures, I'm sorry, this is a random tangent.
Go ahead.
Star Wars doing a bunch of like anniversary stuff with new sets. Like,
dude, there's a whole Batman the Animated Series Lego set coming out.
Yeah.
Oh, true. $300.
Yeah, that's a bit pricey. I agree.
And like,
you guys want to chip in and like go with like thirds on it? You guys get one set, get one part.
Well, it's like I'm about to move, so I can't be
to each other.
Like,
yeah, you are about to move, huh?
Yeah, I'm about to move to good old Kansas.
Where Superman is from.
Right. Yes, I will hold that over Superman fans till the day I die.
Yeah,
there you go.
No, but I mean, look, like when it comes to the Batman, I mean, just to say this one last time, I don't think it's going to get canceled. I don't think that it's going to get scrapped, or Matt Reeves is going to walk away, or they're going to replace Robert Pattinson. I just think that, you know, you look at the writer's strike, look at all the shit that was happening last year and this year and the year before that with the COVID and all that. I just think they're like, hey, look, you know, they probably had a discussion and they said, okay, we'll give you another year to develop the script just to get it right. Because, I mean, look, I don't think that Matt Reeves wants to put out a script that was like, well, I thought it was all right and we filmed it anyway.
You don't want to rush it. You just don't want to rush
exactly.
it. No.
And you know, they even told him, I mean, back in the day, they said, you know, we would like for you to do a Batman. And he was like, well, I'm doing Planet of the Apes, so it's going to have to wait. And so they literally waited for him to come back. And so that's why I think it's going to happen. And I like it.
I was going to say, just to piggyback off Andre, if you honest to God believe that part 2 is getting canceled, you're fucking kidding yourself. I'm sorry. Like it is not going to happen. If you legitimately believe that they're going to just can this shit, you are out of your fucking mind. It is not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And so for the fans of like myself of the Batman movie and wanting to see its sequel, like again, don't worry. Like there's other things to be concerned about. Like as far as the quality, like Matt Reeves is in charge of it, so like I'm not too concerned about that. Like the only thing can be concerned about is like further delays in production. Maybe some things go wrong. You know, maybe some things like that could happen. But as far as being canceled, no, you're not in any danger of that whatsoever.
No, not at all.
In my opinion.
Now, if anything, this is a good thing for the Batman part 2.
Yes, give it time to breathe. Allow it to be as good as it possibly can be. I mean, we waited several years for a movie called The Batman to come out anyway. Right. So,
well, and the Joker scene that got cut from the movie, I really like that scene, but
same.
I guess I do see how it would have been a tonal shift. Like, wait, what? You know, it was just kind of like its own thing within the movie. Like, oh.
I think for Batman fans, it would have been a fun surprise, but I think that Reeves even said, like, we tested it with both the scene in the movie and without the movie, and it allegedly tested better. I'm like, well, if you go by those numbers, that's your business, right?
Do you use the same actor, or do you just recast
I think
him?
Barry Keoghan has even said, like, I can't speak to anything about the Batman part 2. So clearly there's something maybe happening with the Joker in part 2.
Yeah, maybe
what that entails, I don't know.
Maybe again having him as sort of like someone Batman goes to just talk to about the villain, and which I would love to see that type of relationship between them, like we saw in that deleted scene, only a little bit more involved and maybe more repeated times going back.
But I feel like if you do that, then and by the third one, it's going to lead to him breaking
being the biggest bad one of the third.
Yeah, I mean that's the final one, right?
Right,
yeah. Joker. That's the final villain of the trilogy.
Yeah.
So.
Because it's funny because by releasing that deleted scene, it's like you had the scene, even though you didn't have the scene, but you did have the scene. So if you did it again in the second one, most fans would go, "Oh, we saw this already. So now they're doing it again. Cool."
Right.
Even though they really didn't. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah. But with that being said, we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. This is where we usually like to cut it off. And first and foremost, like Sean, Jared, we appreciate you guys being here on such short notice as well, helping us to replace Ryan for the day. Expect more calls.
Yeah, it doesn't take two of you to replace Ryan.
It doesn't. Maybe like half of you, maybe like a half of one of you. But we appreciate you filling in and giving us your thoughts, and we also appreciate everybody in the chat. And do we have any like final thoughts from anyone here on the panel to give before we start closing out?
Not particularly. I don't think
If
so.
this Superman movie doesn't pan out, I want to see Reign of Superman. I
Oh,
want to see live action,
Ooh.
3 to 5 films, 1 film for each one of them, and then a final film with all of them together. That's what I want to see. If this Superman does not work out, that's the story. I want to see something. I want to see the Cyborg. I want to see Superboy. I want to see those.
Cavill play Cyborg Superman.
Cyborg Superman is what I meant. Yeah, I want to see those live action versions of the character.
I mean,
is it possible?
Different. Is it possible that that's something that we might get later on in this universe if it lasts?
Dude, if that happens, people are just gonna get down on their knees and brown nose the fuck out of James Gunn for doing it the right way and building.
But then
it'll be pretty
if you say that, then most likely his movie will be a success.
If his movie leads me to that path and I get that live action, I'm all for it. But if it doesn't work out,
I mean, maybe
take a break from Superman for 5 to 8 years. Take a break from the character. Give us some independent stuff, and then bring it back with something like that from the comics. Bring those comics to life, and
because eventually you have to end the universe to reboot. Because eventually the actors are going to get too old.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe you end it with the Kingdom Come, and then that leads to
this
a reboot.
Is why for me I'm starting to feel like the best way to go about superhero stuff is more and more so, unless it's like a short term like mini story, like just maybe 2 movies or a mini series. If you want to do long term stuff, animated is, in my opinion, the way to go now. Like, because as far as like actors getting too old,
he was like, it was the way I was doing was just a comic book run.
Yeah, like short term, or if you're gonna do long term, make it animated because voices age slower than physical appearance.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Well, fans didn't understand that. They were like, why is Robin dead? It's like,
or film
it could have been really cool.
All back to back.
Yes.
Yeah. Pull a Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings style.
I mean, look at that Batcave behind Sean. It's like, that was such a badass Batcave. It was like, holy shit. And to know that doesn't even exist. It's probably been dismantled and destroyed. And that's the other thing too, is that like, if you're going to complete Zach's movie, think about all the sets you have to rebuild to have that same look.
Probably made into a Starbucks, probably.
I know, right?
If they were going to do that, remember at the end of ZHL, they were building the Hall of Justice. They could just move all that stuff to the back. Because here's the thing, and if you look at the original storyboards, it looks like they were using the Batcave as their command center. And based on the time jump, they could just say, the Hall of Justice is complete now.
Yeah, you could probably do that.
The Batcave was going to be the Justice League's like meetup point. Which I thought was cool because it was like, well, why not?
I'm actually convinced that the Batcave used in Batman v Superman, it wasn't his first Batcave.
Yeah, I mean it's more modernized. Like maybe the first one was underneath Wayne Manor before it burned down, so he moved to the lake house.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Yep.
I was about to say,
yeah,
bingo.
Makes sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with that.
Yeah, but. With that, once again, I want to thank everybody for watching with us today. For those who gave super chats, those who chimed in the conversation, be sure to go follow Nerd Cosa Nostra and Jared for Comics League on the socials. And Phil, again, he's going out to Boston this next week and still waiting on his tax returns. So if you can help him out in getting there and being able to make sure that he can get through the weekend in one piece, definitely feel free to help him out in that way.
There's the Venmo, and then there's the PayPal.
Help out Phil.
Scan it
to what's the con called again?
It's a PAX East. It's a Penny Arcade Expo. Basically, think like Comic-Con, but for video games.
Right. So yeah, if you have, definitely help them out, help them get there, and also be sure to go check out all the rest of the panel members on the social medias. Got Nickatina Show, Unfiltered, Zeeverfett. They're all the same everywhere else. I had to change stuff for some reason. It was stupid. But anyway, be sure to go check out DJWArt.com for some cool prints. In fact, I'll show you guys some stuff I am working on.
DJ Ward.
DJ Ward. Yeah.
DJ Ward.
Right now I've got a Avatar, The Last Airbender series of artwork in the works. I've been drawing them traditionally and I'm going to color them digitally. So we got Aang here and just in a simple pose. What I'm going to do with all these is that each character is going to be from a different bending element or tribe or nation or whatever. So with this one, I'm going to color him regular like his colors are on the show. Have the Air Nomad logo behind him, some cool paint strokes, and I might be printing these out on acrylic. So might be trying out or testing out those waters. Then we got Prince Zuko that I did last week. And again, same concept. And then yesterday I finished up the inks for Katara and Sokka, which is pretty exciting. Here is this one. Finishing off that one.
Nice.
And of course, all I got left to do is Toph, and then my series will be complete, and it'll all be available on DJWArt.com. Also, for those out there who have TikTok, I have started making my stuff available on my TikTok shop. You can just order it directly from there. I even included sticky note sketches as available to order. So for those who are into those kind of things, definitely go check those out. And go follow Ryan Zeeverfett at your own risk.
Yeah, at your own risk.
Damn.
And then, and again, just a quick shout out. I'll be live again later tonight at 10 p.m. Pacific time for the Dre Area Sports Show with my brother and my brother-in-law. So we do that show at least once a week. And then coming
you guys got
up,
a lot of free agency stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, a lot. And then, not to mention, the guy the Niners were supposed to sign today, the linebacker, he changed his mind and went to the Dallas Cowboys. I learned that during that show.
Man. Wow.
The Cowboys?
What a shame.
I was like, what a dick.
What a shame. Why would you go to that team? Oh, my
that's
God.
almost as bad as Barkley going to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Saquon Barkley.
Bad. Holy shit.
So we'll be live. Like I said, we'll be live at 10 p.m. Pacific time. So definitely check that out. And then I am also retooling and relaunching my other channel, which is Beyond the Unknown, and I'll be teaming up with my brother on that, which will be more of a podcast, really. But when we do a recording, we'll do it on that channel and on the main channel, which is Nickatina as well. So all kinds of different content, will be available on my channel. So
Jack, you take that trash somewhere else. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
He's a big Ravens fan. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he's happy today.
I'm sure.
Very happy today. I mean, that's going to be tough to defend with both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry if he stays healthy.
Either you get ran over or you get juked. You know what I mean? You're just like, ugh.
Basically, people's knees are going to be destroyed this next year if they stay healthy. That is. But with that, guys, once again, we appreciate you. We hope you all have a fantastic, rest of your week and weekend. And we will see you guys. Well, most of us. Phil won't be here. But most of us next week. Peace.
Fuck Jeff Johns. Peace.